Chapter 133. The white light faded. When the three of them appeared, they looked very different from the other players. Players who were not in prison would still be so spirited. Even Gu Fei, who loved helping others and sacrificed himself for others, would not be smiling when he was in prison. However, when the three of them saw that there were many people in the prison, they immediately looked around with interest. The people in the prison were now divided into two factions. Gu Fei was the leader, and the only representative of the melancholy faction. He sat alone in the left corner of the cell and spaced out, wondering if he should go offline. The other people were all indignant. They formed a circle under the right wall of the cell, and glared at Gu Fei angrily. If the cell was not a safe zone, they would have already started fighting. When the three of them saw the situation, they knew that Gu Fei was the one being ostracized. But the problem was that they did not know each other in the game, and had only been together for a few hours in prison. It seemed like there was no need to deliberately ostracize someone. As they thought about it, the three of them moved closer to the crowd. "Hello, brothers." The leader of the group greeted them cheerfully. It was definitely rare to be in such a good mood while in prison. The people under the wall were also curious about this person's state of mind. They all looked up at the newcomers. "Are you guys wanted by an archer?" one of the players asked. No, we came in on our own," the three of them answered. Everyone was stunned, turning themselves in. That was rare. If a person really wanted to clear their PK points, they would ask a few friends to help them complete the quest. If they were so honest and willing to turn themselves in, they would probably be honest and not participate in PK. The three of them smiled and pointed at Gu Fei in the corner. "That person." The players under the wall immediately began to denounce him. At first, it was just whispers, but gradually, the crowd became agitated. Their voices became louder and louder, and more vulgar words came out of their mouths. Finally, Gu Fei could not hold it in anymore. He suddenly stood up from the corner, and slowly walked to the front of the crowd. "What do you want?" Everyone stared at Gu Fei. Although those who had fought against Gu Fei knew how powerful he was, they were basically all killed in an instant. However, they were in the safe zone, so no matter how fierce Gu Fei was, he could not do anything to them. Everyone was still very brave. That's one thing, but don't be too harsh with your words. Pay attention to your manners. Gu Fei stood up straight and lectured the people who were squatting in the corner. "Fuck. Why do you care?" Everyone straightened their necks and replied. Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I don't care about others, but aren't you talking about me? Actually, we should all condemn that archer together. I was also plotted against by that fellow. I share the same fate as you." As soon as these words came out, more than half of the people were moved. They were sent to prison by Yutian Xinming. Even if the mage in front of them had done a wanted mission, it had nothing to do with them. On the contrary, from the fact that he was sent to prison by Yutian Xinming, he should be on the same side as them. After all, Yutian Xinming had been the one who was busy with this business for the past 2 days. Overall, most of the clients in the prison belonged to Yutian Xinming. At this time, when Gu Fei's client saw that most of the people had their own thoughts after Gu Fei's words, he quickly stopped them. "Don't be fooled, they must be together." Under Gu Fei's lead, everyone looked at the person as if they were looking at an idiot. Even the three newcomers at the side chimed in. "Together? Together, they should be sent to prison. Who knows? There must be a reason," the person shouted. Everyone snorted at him. Gu Fei sighed in his heart. That was why there was a saying, "The truth is often in the hands of the few." Speaking of which, did you see what the archer looked like? I was ambushed by that kid from behind. I couldn't see it clearly. Gu Fei used Yutian Xinming as an example to completely divert everyone's attention. His strategy was undoubtedly successful. Everyone started talking about Yutian Xinming. As Gu Fei expected, with Yutian Xinming's archer fighting style, half of his clients were sent to prison without even seeing his shadow. The rest did not get a chance to get close to him either. They were taken down by Yutian Xinming's sneak attacks from afar. Not a single one of them actually saw Yutian Xinming's face clearly. That's too despicable, too shameless. Everyone strongly condemned. That's right, that's right. Gu Fei chuckled as he echoed. His clients couldn't get a word in. They were dejectedly squatting to the side, looking at Gu Fei with hatred. Gu Fei couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. His gaze turned to the three newcomers. The light in the prison was dim. Without a certain distance, it was difficult to see the person clearly. Unexpectedly, he was immediately startled and blurted out, "Silvermoon." The one on the left was none other than Silvermoon, the former leader of Dust Guild in Moonlit Night City. The three of them were originally smiling and sizing up Gu Fei. It was obvious that they were more interested in Gu Fei. The people in this room were all losers who had been sent to prison after piking. The difference was that Gu Fei had piked some of them. From the point of daring to do a wanted mission, Gu Fei was a talent. As for why he was also defeated and sent to prison, the three of them clearly heard that he had been ambushed by an archer. Archers had an advantage against mages, not to mention being ambushed. This didn't mean that Gu Fei was bad. However, the three of them didn't expect that after this guy suddenly turned around and saw the three of them, he immediately called out Silvermoon's name. "You are." Silvermoon was puzzled. As the leader of a guild, there were naturally a lot of people who knew him. However, the problem was that it should have been in Moonlit Night City, and this was Cloud City. No one should be able to call out his name so easily. Gu Fei had also calmed down at this time. With a calm face he said, "I've been to Moonlit Night City. I've heard of you and seen you." "Oh." The three of them looked relieved, and Silvermoon was still a little proud. "This really shows that I was a famous figure in the past, and people from other places look up to me like I'm a famous person, and I have a photographic memory, to the point of being able to recognize me at a glance." While reveling in it, her good impression of Gu Fei also deepened. This brother. Just as she wanted to ask for Gu Fei's name, she found that he had disappeared. When she looked down again, she saw that Gu Fei had already squatted down with the group of trash that Silvermoon thought were PK'd. Silvermoon was a little confused. Why was this person more interested in this group of commoners than him? Thinking about it, Silvermoon also squatted down in the crowd and said to everyone, "Everyone, what's the name of this archer who bullied you? It's fate that we met here. When we get out, I'll avenge you." As he said this, he squeezed a smile at Gu Fei. "Smile your ass. Can't you see that I don't want to talk to you?" Gu Fei thought in his heart and moved half a step to the side. It's like someone wants to squeeze you when you're squatting in the latrine. How disgusting. Silvermoon misunderstood Gu Fei's thoughts again. He thought that Gu Fei was afraid of squeezing him, and was kind enough to give him some space. He was even happier and looked at everyone affectionately, waiting for their reply. "Who are you?" someone suddenly said, spoiling the mood. Gu Fei immediately burst out laughing. Everyone looked at him in surprise, not understanding what Gu Fei was laughing about. Gu Fei hurriedly calmed down and introduced Silvermoon to everyone. "Silvermoon, from Moonlit Night City. Have you heard of the Dust Guild?" "Oh." Everyone chanted in unison. Silvermoon's name was even more well-known than the melee mage 27149, who had cut down the non-smiler 8 times. However, the melee mage was mysterious because of his identity, while Silvermoon was mysterious because of his equipment. Large-scale gang wars in Moonlit Night City had long spread to the forums. Both sides engaged in a war of words while researching and discussing Silvermoon's equipment. It was said that this guy had a sword with an additional skill that could inject the members of his side with chicken blood, and make them all very fierce. The name of this skill was rumored to be golden armor all over the city. This topic was also discussed for a long time, until the Dust Guild was completely defeated. It was only when Silvermoon's sword lost its meaning that it gradually died down. After that, there was no big movement from Silvermoon. It was said that he had already run away. Now it seemed that this was true. Otherwise, why would everyone see him in the dungeon of Cloud City? Everyone's "oh" lasted for a long time. After the "oh," they pretty much sorted out their thoughts. Silvermoon looked very proud of this "oh," as if he had pushed everyone to the climax. Silvermoon, who had succeeded, looked at everyone proudly. Everyone looked back with a smile, thinking, "Damn, a stray dog still has such a fucking YY look in his eyes." Although he was a defeated general, Silvermoon was still an expert, which was why he felt so good about himself. Unfortunately, there was no rule that said experts couldn't be looked down upon. Silvermoon was now an expert that was being looked down upon. Everyone looked at his gorgeous equipment and couldn't help but sigh. This guy is really dressed coquettishly. At this time, Silvermoon didn't know what everyone was thinking and said, I have a new mercenary group now. Do you guys want to take revenge? I think I can help. We all know each other, so I won't charge you any fees. When everyone heard that someone was willing to stand up and be an ingrate, and for free, who wouldn't be happy? They immediately provided Silvermoon with the information they knew about Yutian Shenming. Gu Fei listened on the side and added from time to time. In the end, Yutian Shenming was described by everyone as tall and fat, with oily hair and a powdered face. When he walked, his heels didn't touch the ground, and his eyes were overflowing with wretchedness. If Silvermoon really could find Yutian Shenming like this, Gu Fei didn't know what to say. That was God's will. God's arrangement was the greatest. Yutian Shenming, just give up. As the discussion heated up, a few of Gu Fei's clients, who had been ignored all this time, suddenly said, Boss Silvermoon, then can you help us take revenge? Of course. Silvermoon was just about to say of course, when she suddenly realized that the enemy of these guys was Gu Fei. Silvermoon had a good impression of this mage who recognized Silvermoon at a glance, so he didn't say it out loud. In the end, he put on the appearance of an otherworldly master. Everyone meeting in prison is fate. I really don't want to do it. After saying this, he smiled at Gu Fei. His intention to rope in Gu Fei was already clear. The few people snorted and didn't say anything else. Silvermoon immediately felt that his relationship with Gu Fei had gotten closer. He leaned over and asked, Brother, what's your name? Qianli Yishui. Gu Fei said. When did you go to Moonlit Night City? I don't think I've seen you before. Silvermoon asked. Very early. You're a big shot. Even if I saw you, I wouldn't remember. Gu Fei said this, but in his heart he muttered, What's there to talk about? Brother has already cut you twice, don't you know? Silvermoon nodded and continued. It's like this. I've come to Cloud City to play. This time, I'm preparing to develop a mercenary group. Brother, are you interested in joining my group? Sorry, I already have a group. Gu Fei said. Oh, which mercenary group? Silvermoon said. Our idiot leader doesn't let us casually say it to others. He said to maintain a sense of mystery. Gu Fei said. Child Elite Group was the instigator of the collapse of Dust Guild. Gu Fei didn't know if Silvermoon knew the ins and outs of this matter. But from the elite group itself, it was very easy to be exposed. This was because the group had Han Family Young Master and Sword Demon. Gu Fei remembered that during the Battle of Moonlit Night City, these guys didn't cover their faces. As for calling Han Family Young Master an idiot, it was just a simple way to vent his feelings. When he thought of that guy, Gu Fei subconsciously wanted to give him an attribute. But Silvermoon misunderstood. The title of idiot leader made him feel that Gu Fei was dissatisfied with this mercenary group. He immediately said with a slightly indignant tone, There's even this rule. It's really strange. Gu Fei smiled but didn't reply. The conversation between the two suddenly couldn't continue. A Yutian Shenming's client came over and said, Boss Silvermoon, what level are you? We can't even appraise it. Silvermoon smiled proudly. Level 40. Gu Fei was shocked to hear that. He quickly used appraisal on Silvermoon, and sure enough, it showed that the appraisal had failed. Although Gu Fei's appraisal level wasn't very high, he was only a bit stuck when it came to appraising equipment. It wasn't a problem for him to appraise the basic attributes of a profession. A failed appraisal could only mean that Silvermoon's level was higher than his. As he said, he was level 40. Everyone couldn't help but look at him in a new light for him to be able to maintain such a high level after the PK war in Moonlit Night City. But Gu Fei knew that it wasn't that simple. Players who hadn't been to Moonlit Night City couldn't understand the resentment between the two major forces there. Previous Dust had been defeated and trampled on for a month, but he was still level 30. How did Silvermoon rush to level 40? Could it be that Cloud Dusk and the others loved him? Thinking of this, Gu Fei couldn't help but ask. Right, I remember you have a wife. Her name is quite long. Her? Don't mention it. Silvermoon looked unlucky. What's wrong? Gu Fei asked. Femme fatale. Femme fatale. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Silvermoon waved his hands repeatedly. But for some reason his voice seemed to be a bit loud, so loud that Gu Fei wasn't the only one who heard it. Prison was a very boring thing. Hearing that there seemed to be a story here, everyone crowded over and pestered Silvermoon to tell them. Silvermoon looked very reluctant, but she couldn't stand everyone's pestering. She sighed and said, "That woman was quite good when we first met. We played together, founded the Dust Guild together, and developed it to become the #1 guild in Moonlit Night City. But after that, she gradually changed. She started to follow some people in the guild who weren't very moral. They became arrogant and despotic, causing trouble everywhere. I can say a few words to others or kick them out of the guild, but what about her? I still had to follow her and clean up her mess. Even so, I didn't manage to do anything. In the end, I still offended all the players in Moonlit Night City. And then this is what you see. Femme fatale, femme fatale." Everyone sighed. Gu Fei didn't bat an eyelid and asked again, "Then what about her now? After previous dust collapsed, I don't know where she went. She didn't even reply to my messages. Who knows?" Silvermoon smiled bitterly. "Heartless and heartless, heartless and heartless." The crowd said one after another. Silvermoon didn't say anything and let out a long sigh. Everyone came over to comfort him, but Gu Fei was indifferent. To the unfamiliar players in Cloud City, Silvermoon's words were enough to fool them. However, as the direct cause of previous dust's collapse, Gu Fei could easily tell who was real and who was fake. Boundless Mang was arrogant and despotic, but this temperament could be seen everywhere in Moonlit Night City, as if it was part of their main city culture. Silvermoon pushed the reason why previous Dust's guild wasn't well liked to the Boundless Mang, and a few people who weren't very moral. It was obvious that a rat's poop spoiled the whole pot of porridge. But in reality, none of the previous Dust members that Gu Fei had seen weren't arrogant. And Silvermoon himself seemed to be a harmonious person, but Gu Fei remembered that when he first arrived in Moonlit Night City, he was the person with the highest PK value on the wanted list. Right now, Silvermoon was dressed in a good outfit, and was sitting in jail with a smile on his face. On the other hand, the Boundless Mang outside was being killed by people. Just now he was almost beaten to death. Boundless Mang might be one of the sources of trouble, but the truly heartless one was Silvermoon. Disdain, endless disdain. Chapter 134. Gu Fei was full of disdain. Silvermoon did not notice it at all. After his speech, he won everyone's sympathy, and the people in the room became more familiar with each other. She had to admit that Silvermoon was worthy of being the leader of a large guild. After entering the prison cell, she had become the core of the room. Everyone naturally surrounded him, making Gu Fei feel very sad and indignant. Silvermoon was really good. After telling the story, he started to take out his pocket and called out to everyone. "Everyone is bored, right? I have something to kill time with." What? Everyone asked. Silvermoon smiled and opened his palm. Everyone stretched their necks to take a look, and their eyes lit up. There were 3 dice in Silvermoon's palm. "Do you want to play a few rounds?" Silvermoon smiled. Everyone nodded. "You guys want to come too?" Silvermoon called out to a few of Gu Fei's clients in the corner. Ever since Gu Fei instigated Yutian Shiming's clients, these guys were very depressed and kept their distance from the others. They looked at each other. Prison was so boring, and everyone wanted to have fun. They were hesitating because they couldn't bring themselves to do it. "Come on. The more the merrier," Silvermoon shouted and said to his 2 companions, "Go get them too." Silvermoon's 2 friends were about to get up, but the others had already hurriedly borrowed the opportunity to run over. Gu Fei sneered. Get. Players in the safe zone could not interact with each other. However, Silvermoon was good at winning people over. He was a big scammer. After calling out to the group, Silvermoon saw that Gu Fei did not seem to have any intention of coming over, so he quickly waved. "Brother Qianli, come and play with us." "No." Gu Fei smiled. "I'm a little tired. I'll lie here for a while. You guys play." He put his hands behind his head and laid down on the ground. Silvermoon was quite disappointed. He really wanted to rope in Gu Fei, but it seemed that this kid didn't fall for it. She wanted to greet him again, but Gu Fei turned around and faced her with his butt. Silvermoon swallowed her words. Everyone knew how to play dice. It was as if they weren't competing on luck, but on their loudness. A group of people shouted, and almost flipped the dungeon upside down. Under such circumstances, how could Gu Fei really fall asleep? He was already feeling a little regretful. Lying in such a noisy environment for 2 hours with no one to talk to. Wasn't this just asking for trouble? Thinking of this, Gu Fei rolled over and turned around. Silvermoon was looking at him with a mischievous smile. How is it? Can't sleep, right? Gu Fei nodded. Forget it, I'll go too. Silvermoon was all smiles as she squeezed out a spot for Gu Fei. That's right. Otherwise, it would be boring to just sit here and do nothing. By the way, how long will you be in prison? 2 hours, Gu Fei replied casually. Oh. What about you guys? Silvermoon asked the others. The first topic of conversation when they met in prison was, of course, how many hours? No one doubted Silvermoon's question, and everyone answered truthfully. Because Yutian Shenming and Gu Fei both took high PK quests, the group sentences weren't light. After a round of reporting, Gu Fei's 2 hours turned out to be the shortest. But because the others had come in early, they were already nearing the end, and were sprinting ahead. But the last moment was often the most difficult. Fortunately, Silvermoon suddenly brought such a game in. With something to play, time naturally passed faster. Not to mention gambling was a very popular form of entertainment. Gu Fei came and went, fully immersed in the game. It was just that he didn't cherish the game coins as much as ordinary players. Although it was commendable that he was happy to win and happy to lose, he didn't have as much fun. The other players were different. They shouted and glared at each other, competing fiercely. Those who won wanted to win more, and those who lost naturally wanted to win back their losses. Gambling was such an addictive game. Most of the players weren't very rich, and some of them had terrible luck. After playing for a while, they lost all their money. At this time, Silvermoon would pull out a knife to help, taking out a few gold coins and handing them over. She didn't say that she was giving them money, but that she was borrowing them. The players who borrowed money would naturally continue playing. Those who won would return the money on the spot, and those who lost would borrow again. Later on, everyone got used to it. Once they lost all their money, they would directly reach out to Silvermoon. Silvermoon didn't refuse either. Gu Fei, who clearly didn't lack money, tried to stretch out his hand, and Silvermoon handed over 5 gold coins in the same way. Because he didn't trust Silvermoon's character, Gu Fei couldn't help but be suspicious. But looking closely at the game, he didn't find anything strange. Everyone's game was super simple. There was no distinction between the banker and the idle player. Everyone put down a gold coin, and then rolled the dice. The one with the biggest color would take all the dice, and if there were 2 of the same size, then they would split it evenly. This could be said to be the simplest gambling method that completely relied on luck. There was no need to consider psychology. Looking closely at everyone's wins and losses and expressions, Gu Fei also found that everyone was the most simple gambler, including Silvermoon. It seems like they're just killing time. Gu Fei denied the idea that Silvermoon was plotting something. Frankly speaking, if Gu Fei wanted to win, it would be very easy. If it was just shaking the dice cup, Gu Fei wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. But directly throwing the dice on the ground, even though he hadn't practiced it before, with Gu Fei's skills he would be able to accurately throw the number he needed 2 or 3 times out of 10. This was much more likely to win than others who relied on luck alone. But Gu Fei didn't use it. He just casually threw the dice and tried his luck. Firstly, he didn't think it was necessary. Secondly, throwing the 3 dice to the required number was not an easy task. It was much more difficult than throwing a flying knife to stab someone to death. If he really threw the dice like that, Gu Fei reckoned that it wouldn't take long for his arms and hands to cramp. Ingenuity was actually the most difficult thing to do. Thus, a group of criminals continued to engage in theoretically illegal gambling in prison. Regardless of whether they won or lost, everyone felt that time was flying by. Many people were sent out of the prison on time. Seeing that one guy had just won a big bet before leaving, and was happily throwing himself on the ground to collect money when he was sent out. The others became more cautious. After all, it was a game. The task column was calculating how long it would take before they could be released. Therefore, those who were paying attention to the time had to make every second count. Those who knew that they didn't have much time left were all reluctant to leave. Some who were in high spirits looked as if they were about to die. The charm of gambling could be seen clearly. And because Gu Fei didn't care much about winning or losing, he naturally wouldn't be reluctant to leave. Seeing that it was almost time to be released, his heart was jumping with joy. As for how much he had won or lost, he didn't know. He only remembered that he owed Silvermoon 5 gold coins. At this time, the players in the room were all released. Only Gu Fei and Silvermoon's 3 companions were left. With fewer people, it wasn't that lively, but there was more chatting. Qianli, I knew you weren't an ordinary person the first time I saw you. Silvermoon praised Gu Fei. Haha. Gu Fei laughed. Think about it. Join my mercenary group. Together, we'll create the #1 mercenary group in Cloud City. Silvermoon said. This is not necessary. Gu Fei said. Silvermoon laughed. Then I won't force you. In short, you can come whenever you want in the future. When we get out, add me as a friend. In prison, all kinds of communication was prohibited. Adding friends was also part of the scope of communication. Regarding Silvermoon's suggestion, Gu Fei didn't comment. Silvermoon looked at the time. You don't have many minutes left, right? Gu Fei nodded. 16 minutes. Saying this, he raised the dice in his hand and threw it. Without batting an eyelid, he grabbed the gold coins on the ground. Your luck is pretty good. You won a few rounds in a row? Silvermoon was surprised. Gu Fei had a face of annoyance. Depressing. Why didn't I have this luck when there were so many people? At this time, there were only 4 people. Winning 1 round would only earn him 3 gold coins. It couldn't be compared to before. And the 4 people's game was also very fast. Gu Fei even took out the stance of when the others were about to leave. Silvermoon pointed at him and teased. You bastard. I didn't see you playing like this before. Now that your luck is good, you're full of energy. What, you want to rip me off? Gu Fei laughed. How much money do you have on you? Maybe we can play a little bigger? Silvermoon said. Okay, 12 gold coins as a base, Gu Fei said. 12. Why 12? Silvermoon was very puzzled by this strange number. Gu Fei laughed. With the 3 of you, it'll be easier to split the spoils after 12 wins. In a 3 against 1, as long as one of the 3 had more points than Gu Fei, it was equal to winning. Gu Fei, on the other hand, had to have more points than all 3 of them. This was no longer luck, but a problem of probability and mathematical statistics. Silvermoon heard this and immediately became angry. Qianli, what do you mean? Are you saying that the 3 of us want to cheat you together? Gu Fei's smile didn't diminish. Can't you tell I'm joking? Silvermoon still had an angry expression of being wronged. Gu Fei said, You see, if I really suspected you were thinking of something, would I agree to increase the bet? Do you think I'm stupid? Hearing this, Silvermoon's expression softened a lot and she nodded. I thought Qianli really thought I was that kind of person. Of course not. Gu Fei laughed dryly. Since that's the case, then it won't be 12. 13 gold coins as a base, how about it? No problem. Silvermoon gladly accepted. About 14 minutes later, the bet had to be stopped. One of the 3 people in Silvermoon's group was pale. I'm out of money. Gu Fei's expression was even more serious than his. Looking at the small gold mountain in front of him, he was dumbfounded. So my luck today was all accumulated in these few minutes. Silvermoon's small face was also pale. She dryly said, You're really lucky. Yes. Gu Fei nodded as he desperately put money in his pocket. In the end, there were only 5 gold coins left and he returned it to Silvermoon. I borrowed 5 from you before. Forget it, it's only 5 gold coins. What's there to return? Silvermoon waved her hand. Take it. Gu Fei forced it into Silvermoon's hand and patted his own pocket. I've already taken a lot from you. The corner of Silvermoon's eye twitched a few times. Gu Fei looked at the guy who lost everything. Do you want me to lend you a few? Otherwise, you won't be able to continue after I leave. The guy shook his head, not saying anything. You really don't need it? Gu Fei asked. No, the guy said with a dry throat. Oh, then I'm leaving. Gu Fei got up. The three nodded. Silvermoon said, let's keep in touch. How long are you going to sit here? Gu Fei asked. A little more than 4 hours, Silvermoon said. Good luck. Goodbye. Gu Fei glanced at the guy who lost all his money and waved goodbye. In the blink of an eye, a white light flashed, and the guy was sent out of the cell. Fuck. As soon as Gu Fei left, the guy who lost everything was already angrily pounding the floor. Another person picked up the 3 dice on the floor and looked around. Is there really such good luck? What else could it be? Silvermoon asked. Skill? One person was puzzled. With this skill, I'd be rich long ago. How many lousy gold coins can I win from you? Silvermoon didn't think much of it. The other 2 had nothing to say. They were all puzzled. In fact, how could Silvermoon be happy? He lost as much as the other 2 guys. Forget it, who cares? There's finally no one in the cell. Let's hurry up and finish the task. After Silvermoon said this, the other 2 nodded, and the 3 of them busied themselves in the cell. After being sent out of the dungeon, Gu Fei let out a long breath. The game environment was too realistic, and the air in the dungeon was damp and rotten. The game designer knew that this was only a simulation, and in reality, it was harmless to the human body, so they were so bold. However, the psychological impact was still obvious. Gu Fei came out and took 2 breaths, suddenly feeling that the world was so beautiful, and he didn't want to go back to prison even if he was beaten to death. After calming down, he saw a person sitting on the stone steps of the door. Gu Fei was startled for a moment before he walked over. The person heard the footsteps behind him and quickly turned his head. It's you, the other person said in a daze. It was Boundless Mang. Gu Fei sighed and asked, Are you waiting for Silvermoon? Boundless Mang nodded. I just sent him a message, and the system said, not in service area. He should be in prison. Gu Fei nodded. He's in prison, I saw him. Oh, Mang responded, but there was no joy on his face. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Gu Fei walked out a few steps, then looked back. He sat alone on the stone steps in the vast and boundless wilderness. It was a very desolate scene. Gu Fei thought about it, then finally turned around and walked in front of Boundless Mang. Boundless Mang raised his head and looked at Gu Fei. There are some things I think you should know. Gu Fei said. Boundless Mang continued to look at him. Gu Fei didn't pay much attention, and repeated what Silvermoon had said in prison. Boundless Mang's expression didn't change much, no anger, no sadness, just quietly listening to everything Gu Fei said. I still want to ask him personally, Boundless Mang said. Gu Fei nodded, turned around and walked away. After 5 steps, he suddenly turned back. He said he needs another 4 hours before he can come out, or you can go offline and rest for a while. Okay. Boundless Mang nodded. Gu Fei turned around and left. This time he didn't look back, and walked all the way to the safe zone, and went offline. The next day, as soon as he came online, he received a message from Yutian Shinming, asking him to go to Little Ray's bar. When he arrived at the bar and entered the private room, the other 5 members of the mercenary group were all there. Every night before they started leveling, the mercenary group members seemed to have gotten used to sitting here for a while. To be honest, if it wasn't for this habit, it was hard to say if there would be any interaction between the 6 of them. This was because the mercenary group hadn't received any business for a long time. Han Family Young Master had proven that he wasn't suitable to be a manager. If a mercenary group wanted to make a name for itself, there were more ways than a guild. The strength of a guild was reflected by the number of people and the level of the members. In addition to these 2, the mercenary group listed in the Mercenary Union's Mission Completion Leaderboard, which was a place to directly reflect the strength of a mercenary group. This leaderboard was a combination of the number of missions received, the number of completed missions, and the completion rate. Among them, the number of completed missions and the completion rate were the most important criteria. Those who completed many missions and had a high completion rate were all famous mercenary groups in Cloud City. But Child Elite Group wasn't one of them. In terms of completion rate, Child Elite Group had a very high completion rate, 100%. But looking at the number of completed missions, it could only make people wonder if this mercenary group was newly formed. Especially in the system's mission acceptance and completion rate, Child Elite Group was a glaring 0. Chapter 135. The number of quests issued by the system was far more than the number of quests issued by the players who needed help. If a mercenary group wanted to make a name for themselves, they basically had to rely on farming. They would accept the quests issued by the system and repeatedly do them. The higher the completion rate, and the higher the completion rate, the higher the ranking. When the players needed help, there would naturally be more people coming to them. However, the quests issued by the system, especially those that could be repeated, were naturally dull and tedious. No matter how novel the quests were, no one would be able to find any joy in doing them dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of times. This required perseverance and perseverance. The Han family's young master was extremely impatient with such boring things, so the mercenary group under his leadership completely ignored this path. Han family young master's goal was to build up his popularity through trading with the players. This first step of development was very smooth. The quest to capture the boss of Black Dragon Mountain Cave was rather difficult. The Child Elite Group that completed it was the talk of the Mercenary Guild and the tavern for a period of time. Later on, Amethyst Reborn came to them through this method. However, the Unlawing Mercenary Group adopted a secretive approach. Although the quest was completed extremely well, they did not gain any points this time. After that, there were no more commendable missions that could be taken out. After all, high difficulty quests also required good luck. Secondly, not everyone was willing or able to spend money to buy people to complete a quest. Therefore, the development of Child Elite Group stagnated. Han family young master was not sure if he had lost his excitement at the moment, but he did not take the initiative to expand his business when there was no business that came knocking on his door. While the other mercenary group leaders studied and selected various quests in the Mercenary Guild, he basically drank at Little Ray's bar. Therefore, the Child Elite Group eventually became one of the countless small mercenary groups. Today, when the 6 of them gathered together, Han family young master suddenly raised his voice and said, "The time for the mercenary group to make a name for itself has come." Everyone thought he was having a high fever. Brother Yu explained in a low voice, "The first event organized by the system is about to begin. The mercenary group competition and the guild competition. In order to expand their influence, or in other words, to make the game more prosperous, game companies would often use holidays or anniversaries to organize activities that they didn't usually have. The record for the number of people online was often set on such days. What was even more attractive to players was that the game officials would put some good items that were not easily obtainable as rewards. This was the main reason why players paid attention to such events. This time, the slogan of the parallel world was to celebrate its official operation. When the open beta was about to end, the game company had already started promoting this event. Everyone had heard about it, but the content of the event had been kept a secret. As for dragging it out for more than a month, it was nothing more than an extended promotional period. Other than that, it was to give the players who had just entered the game after the open beta a chance to level up. Since leveling up required a lot of EXP, the gap between players was relatively close. 2 players who were both level 40 would only realize that the gap between them would require 3 days and nights to make up for it after they reported their experience points. It was a pity that the difference in strength wasn't obvious at all. It was only for one's imagination. The event hadn't been officially announced yet. However, Brother Yu received some news that it involved mercenary groups and guilds, so he immediately informed Han family young master to gather people. Basically, all players would try their best to participate in these events, regardless of the final outcome. For experts like them, they were naturally full of ambition. If we win this event, everyone will be famous in the future. Han family young master gave a speech to motivate them. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt that it wasn't appropriate. This was because other than him who had just changed his ID, Sword Demon, Brother Yu, Yutian Shinming, and unscathed in battle were all masters who could make a name for themselves with their names alone. As for Gu Fei, once his ID of 27149 was announced, it was enough to shock everyone. That was a name that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the current 5 roaches. This was the legendary hidden boss behind the scenes. As expected, the 5 of them were indifferent to Han family young master's words of everyone will be famous. The young master of the Han family cleared his throat and spoke again. What I mean is that we definitely have to participate in the event. Since we've received the news in advance, everyone should make some preparations. Those who haven't done their class advancement yet, have you done your research? Qianli, can you rush to 40 in the next few days? I don't think so, Gu Fei said. He was still a long way off from 40 EXP. Who has done your class advancement? Han family young master asked. The 4 of them shook their heads. These experts were all very smart. Anyway, whether or not they did the class advancement wouldn't affect their daily leveling. Before they figured out the 2 directions, no one made a decision hastily. Everyone was waiting for the officials to reveal more information. Do as you see fit. Han family young master waved his hand. No matter how you looked at it, he was a person who was afraid of trouble. He was also too lazy to say too much. In the end he said, this time, our opponents are mainly other mercenary groups. Brother, you will organize the information of other large mercenary groups in Cloud City in the next 2 days. We'll do our research when the time comes. Everyone nodded. There's nothing else. Han family young master shrugged. I'm going to do my mission. Yutian Shenming was the first to stand up. As for this sentence, it was said to Gu Fei with a tone asking for instructions. Go Yutian classmate. Gu Fei approved. Then the 5 of them stood up one after another and left. Only Han family young master walked out of the private room, shouted wine at little Ray, then went back in and sat down. After leaving the tavern, unscathed in battle and Sword Demon went their separate ways. At this time, Gu Fei received a message from Reborn Amethyst. She actually asked him to attend a meeting. This was really a rare occurrence. Gu Fei hadn't been there for a long time. He had a vague memory of which door Amethyst was in. When he walked over, he found that Brother Yu was going the same way. The 2 of them chatted as they walked. Gu Fei suddenly remembered something and asked Brother Yu, do you know this person called Drifting? Of course. Brother Yu said, he's also an old player and expert mage. Is that so? Then who's stronger between him and Yutian? Gu Fei asked. This question has been debated ever since they became famous. There's no conclusion. Brother Yu said. Then didn't you say that Yutian is the #1 mage? Gu Fei was puzzled. Nonsense. The one sitting next to us is Yutian. If you want to sit with Drifting, we'll immediately say that Drifting is the #1 mage. Brother Yu said. Gu Fei couldn't help but laugh. These guys were really hypocritical. Then he asked again. Then who do you think is stronger between the 2 of them? Brother Yu wasn't the best, but his theoretical knowledge was definitely top-notch. Being a commentator was his strength. Well, Brother Yu said after a slight hesitation. Don't tell Yutian. Gu Fei smiled, all right. I already know the answer. Brother Yu also smiled. It's not that Yutian isn't good. But as you can see, Yutian is a flamboyant guy. Everyone knows how good he is. If this kid finds any trick or technique, he will immediately announce it for others to learn, and then pretend to be a god. Drifting is the type who keeps a low profile. Only when he makes a move will you know how good he is. And he's not like Yutian who likes to share resources. If he finds a trick, I think he will hide it. So, Yutian's strength is clear at a glance. Drifting is still hiding it. From this point of view, I think Yutian may not be as good as him. Yeah, I think so too. Gu Fei nodded in agreement. Drifting tried his best to hide his red flame of falling clothes. Do you know Drifting? Brother Yu was surprised. The 5 of them knew that even though Gu Fei was good, he was still a newbie. Gu Fei nodded. I've only known him for 2 days. He's in Cloud City right now. Why is he here? Brother Yu was surprised. I don't know, Gu Fei said. Brother Yu muttered to himself. Gu Fei asked again. Do you know any of the 5 heroes or 5 roaches that people talk about? Brother Yu smiled. The 5 level 41 guys on the leaderboard? I don't know. The fighter called 100-year strategist. I don't know if he changed his ID. The archer called Water Depth and the warrior called Southblade are both famous professional players. As for the thief called Thin Waist Dance, she is a female. She is known as the toughest R&B player in history. I haven't met her before, but I've heard that her mechanics are quite good. But that's for sure. She spent all her time farming and doing business, so it would be strange if she wasn't good. However, I think that if Sword Demon hadn't been ambushed and dropped a level, he would have been one of the 5 roaches. What a pity. Gufei also felt sorry for Sword Demon. Sword Demon's hard work in the game was unimaginable. His passion for the game was comparable to Gufei's passion for Kung Fu. In comparison, the Han clan's young master was much more laid back. It was unknown how these two people got together. Little Ray's bar wasn't far from Reborn Amethyst. It was rare that Brother Yu was actually heading in the same direction as Gufei. The two of them talked for a while, and the sign of Reborn Amethyst was already in sight. Gufei pointed and said, "I'm here." "Oh." Brother Yu patted him, smiled ambiguously, and continued walking forward. Gufei pushed the door open and took a deep breath. He hadn't been here for a long time. Reborn Amethyst's office didn't get bigger, but there were a lot more people. Gufei glanced at the corner where he used to be, and it was now occupied. He stood in front of the door in a daze. On the other hand, there were quite a few unfamiliar faces who were surprised to see Gufei. Ever since they joined Amethyst, they had never seen a man in this room. Just as they were feeling awkward, a woman suddenly stepped out and shouted at Gufei, "Hey Qianli!" Gufei looked. Isn't that Little Yu? He hadn't seen her for a month and she had changed. The heavy armor that covered 99% of her body was gone, and in its place was a soft armor that was popular for female warriors. This armor looked delicate, but it was still considered a heavy armor. It was just that the game company had succumbed to the female players' love for beauty, and had no choice but to make changes to the appearance. Looking at Junrain's armor, it was mainly red and black. There wasn't any dazzling brilliance, but it made her look valiant and heroic. She wasn't wearing a helmet, and walked towards Gufei. Her long hair fluttered in the wind. This was the legendary combination of strength and gentleness. Long time no see. Junrain casually patted Gufei. Gufei was still smiling. But when the slap landed, he immediately cursed inwardly. This Little Yu was still so brainless, she didn't use enough strength. He staggered a few times to the side, and Gufei's heart was bleeding. He was sent flying by a girl with a single slap. This was too outrageous. But this was also because he had no other choice. As the characters in the game continued to add points, the players' stats in the game, such as strength and speed, began to clearly surpass that of normal humans. For someone like Little Yu who went all out, she was like Popeye who had eaten spinach. Trampling on Gufei was as easy as squashing a can. Just as Gufei was about to steady himself, someone beside him reached out to support him. He turned around and saw that it was Wuxia. "Are you okay?" Wuxia smiled. "I'm fine." Gufei was depressed and immediately asked, "Are you okay?" Wuxia knew what he was referring to and nodded. On this side, Gufei was sent flying. On the other side, there was already someone yelling in a reproachful tone. "Little Yu!" Junrain covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Oh, I forgot again." Saying this, she hurriedly came over to look at Gufei. Don't mind her, she's already sent a few people flying today. The one who spoke was July. She hadn't seen Gufei for more than a month. "What's there to mind? Little Yu and I are brothers," Gufei said. "Ah, that's right," Little Yu said as she patted his shoulder again. Gufei wouldn't be careless this time. His shoulder moved to the side, and Little Yu's slap missed. "I better be careful." Gufei wiped his sweat. With a swish, a healing spell floated onto Gufei's body. Gufei didn't even need to look to know who it was. Sure enough, Luolua's voice sounded from the side. "You won't despise my healing spell this time, right?" An all-out warrior without a weapon was not simple. After receiving this slap, Gufei's health would definitely drop. Gufei was speechless. These girls came one after another. It was really too much to handle. "Let me first introduce everyone." July clapped her hands. "This person is our guild's Qianli drunk." The girls who didn't know Gu Fei had already asked the older members about his identity. However, since July had officially introduced him, everyone still had to react, clapping their hands, screaming, and whistling. Gu Fei, the guy who never appeared, was jokingly called the enigmatic man by the girls. At this time, when he appeared in person, he was warmly teased, and the atmosphere was lively. At this time, Gu Fei's professionalism was reflected. For example, in the physical education class, boys and girls were bound to be in separate classes, and the physical education teacher could be said to be the only teacher who had to face a group of girls alone. Gu Fei had experienced this kind of scene before. He immediately nodded to the girls very casually. "Hello, students." "Haha." The girls followed Gu Fei's joke, laughing and echoing, "Hello, teacher." This imperceptibly made them even more into the role. Gu Fei smiled and nodded to everyone again, the awkwardness dissolving without any attack. Watching on the side, Luolua was amazed. Usually, this guy was uncomfortable when she touched him with healing, but he was so calm in such a big scene. July glanced at everyone and also said with a smile, "It's about time, I'll say a few words. The official event is coming, and the content is the mercenary competition and the guild competition. I heard that the rewards are quite generous. Our guild isn't big, but it doesn't hurt to participate. You can sign up for the 2 competitions repeatedly. Our guild doesn't have a mercenary group, and if you want to participate in the mercenary competition again, we can form another one." The girls listened quietly, and only Little Rain was already excited. She clenched her fists and said excitedly to Gu Fei, "Quest, quest." No wonder she suddenly came back. It turned out to be for this event. Times were changing, but this girl was still so infatuated with quests. Gu Fei smiled as he flashed back 2 steps. That slap was painful enough. If she suddenly punched him, wouldn't he be smashed through the intestines? On this side, July's speech was still going on. Everyone level up as much as you can these days. The event will probably take a few days. It seemed like July had some connections. She actually received the news that Brother Yu received. Then, who wants to participate in the mercenary competition? Come and sign up. We'll also form a mercenary group. July said. In essence, the competition was a PK competition. There weren't many girls who were interested in PvP. It was enough for them to experience the liveliness of their guilds. As for participating in the mercenary confrontation again, the enthusiasm of the girls was obviously not high. Other than Lai Lai, who was the first to jump out and claim to be the leader, the others were hesitating. "Qianli, are you participating?" July asked. "I have a mercenary group," Gu Fei said. Oh. July didn't say anything. This was a very common phenomenon. Not all guilds had their own mercenary group. For example, Amethyst didn't have one, so there was nothing wrong with their guild members joining other mercenary groups. Fiercely made a big fuss for a long time, and finally got some girls to join his group. Gu Fei smiled disapprovingly. With these girls' immature skills, if they met with Sword Demon's group of veterans, other than seduction, there seemed to be no other way to win. With this thought, Gu Fei suddenly realized that if they met with Child Elite group, they would immediately lose Yutian Shenming and unscathed in battle. As for the other 3 guys, ugh. Although they weren't as radical as Yutian Shenming, and unscathed in battle on the surface, who could know a person's face? Gu Fei remembered that when Sword Demon first met Shi Xiaotian, he was quite excited. As his imagination ran wild, Gu Fei received another message. He opened it and saw that it was Coward's savior shouting, "Master, I found you." "Where?" Gu Fei asked. The 2 arranged a meeting place. When Gu Fei saw that the girls in the room had begun to leave, he greeted a few familiar people and left. He arranged to meet Coward's savior at the fountain in the square in the center of the city. When Gu Fei arrived, Coward's savior had been waiting for a long time. When he saw Gu Fei coming over, he immediately put on a mantis fist posture. His body swayed and his mouth was still babbling. Gu Fei went up and hooked his leg toward his lower body. Coward's savior took half a step back. His posture didn't change, and he actually dodged the hook. Not bad. Gu Fei praised. Coward's half step back was completely in line with the 7-star steps. Of course, Gufei's hook was a very casual test. Otherwise, wouldn't Coward Savior's 1 month of training was equivalent to 20 years of training? That kind of Coward Savior should be the lead actor. Coward Savior, who was praised by Gufei, was even more proud and continued to keep his stance. Okay, keep it, Gufei said. Mantis Fist style was very unique, and it was very easy to attract onlookers. Especially in such a bustling area in the middle of the city. How's Moonlit Night City? Gufei and Coward Savior exchanged greetings. Coward Savior shook his head. It's still the same. Originally, everyone thought that after defeating the former Dust, their days would be better. But now their 10-guild alliance has more people than the former Dust, and they're bullying us. 10-guild alliance? Which guild? Gufei asked. Oh, it's an alliance of 10 guilds. Because there isn't a guild high enough to accommodate that many people, they can't merge for the time being, Coward Savior said. Gufei sucked in a breath of cold air. In the past, at least one former Dust guild was tyrannical. Now that there was a 10-guild alliance, Moonlit Night City really wasn't a safe place. There are a lot fewer players in Moonlit Night City now, Coward Savior said. They're all running to other main cities. Chapter 136. Gufei and the Coward Savior talked about Kung Fu after the small talk. The Coward Savior couldn't wait to show Gufei what he had achieved in the past month. Gufei didn't have time to stop him. The Coward Savior had already jumped to the edge of the fountain to practice. This was undoubtedly eye-catching. In an instant, it attracted a large crowd. The players watched while muttering, and the most talked was naturally, "What's wrong with him?" The Coward Savior was unmoved. Thrusting punch, rolling cart, jumping step, helmet removal, double flower arrangement, 18 shuttles. Every move was methodical and smooth. In online gaming terms, the Coward Savior's proficiency level was already quite high. As for actual combat use, it was another matter. Gufei saw that he didn't care about the surrounding gazes, and his heart suddenly felt a burst of emotion. This feeling was somewhat familiar. In his youth, his worship of Kung Fu had reached the apex. He was proud of his Kung Fu, and he completely ignored the strange gazes of the surrounding people. Today, Gufei finally knew that this kind of pride could only be buried in his heart, because too many people simply couldn't understand this kind of pride. Just like Gufei's situation in school, Kung Fu. Everyone treated it as a joke, so how could there be respect for it? In this case, unless, hey, what the hell is this idiot doing? Among the onlookers, suddenly a guy's loud voice came out from the crowd. Hey. Unfortunately, the Coward Savior was facing this direction, looking straight at the person who said this. After a loud shout, he rushed forward and used the 9 turns and 18 falls move, throwing the person to the ground. Then he flashed back to his original position. Gufei nodded repeatedly. This was the only way for others to understand that Kung Fu wasn't a joke. Unfortunately, he was forbidden from using Kung Fu to fight since he was a child. Otherwise, wouldn't it be extremely easy to prove that his Kung Fu was genuine? The guy who was thrown to the ground was startled, but he quickly discovered that his HP didn't drop much. Amidst the laughter around him, he could no longer maintain his composure. With a roll, he stood up and cursed, "Brat!" Then he took out a 2-handed great sword from his pocket and swung it forward. Gufei stood still, waiting to see how the Coward Savior would respond. The Savior of Cowards was indeed very calm. Sliding 2 steps, he dodged the opponent's Mount Tai crushing strike. Following that, he wrapped his arms around the opponent's waist and let out a loud roar. With a whoosh, the man with the loud voice was sent flying into the fountain in the middle of the plaza with a plop. Damn. Gufei muttered to himself. Hug throw. In a critical moment, the Coward Savior used an in-game skill instead of the Mantis Fist. The guy in the pool stood up, dripping wet. Now that his mind was clear, he knew that he was no match for the other party in PK. Faced with the even livelier laughter around him, he didn't dare to clamor anymore. After climbing out of the pool, he slipped away dejectedly. Let's go. Gufei also said to the Coward Savior. You're not training anymore? The Coward Savior still hadn't finished training. Let's find a place to kill monsters. Gufei said to him. The Coward Savior had just arrived, so he was naturally unfamiliar with the leveling areas of Cloud City. Moreover, he hadn't played much in the past month, so he wasn't as efficient as Gu Fei. Up until now, he was only a mere level 34. Gu Fei led him to the leveling area for level 30+. He pointed at the monsters and said to him, "There are usually 3 steps to training martial arts. Basic skills, routines, and then disassembly. You can do the basic skills in real life, but there's no need to do it in the game. You're already very familiar with the routines, so the next step is disassembly. If you're doing disassembly alone, it's all piling, hitting sandbags, and so on. It's better if you're in the game, at least there are moving monsters for you to disassemble. Okay, go disassemble them." "Can't I disassemble them with you?" the coward's savior asked. "Disassemble them with me?" Gu Fei was stunned. "If you're not afraid of hurting your pride, that's fine too." The coward's savior immediately blushed. Gu Fei patted him and said, "There's a process from disassembly alone to disassembly together. Take it slow." The coward's savior nodded. "If you're disassembling them, you can't follow the choreographed routines anymore. You need to choose the appropriate moves based on the enemy's position and attack. I'll give you a demonstration," Gu Fei said as he walked towards a monster. The monster howled and took the initiative to attack. Gu Fei lightly dodged it and threw a punch. Then he moved, punched, kicked, and a bunch of moves from Praying Mantis Fist flew towards the monster. The coward's savior was stunned. Fast, it was really too fast. Gu Fei, who put all his points into agility, didn't know how much faster his attack speed was than the coward's savior. However, every punch and kick could be completed in one go at this speed. Every move and every style was so clear, allowing the coward's savior to easily figure out which punch was which move in which routine. This was really too valiant. The coward's savior opened his mouth wide in admiration. Gu Fei punched the monster for a full 3 minutes before it fell to the ground. Sorry, although he used Kung Fu, the system judged that this was only a normal attack. A normal attack from a bare-handed mage could only deal 1 point of damage to the monster's defense. Gu Fei accumulated the damage 1 point at a time and killed the monster. "How was it?" Gu Fei walked back and asked the coward's savior. The coward's savior cried, "I still want to disassemble you. Just watching you disassemble alone already hurt my pride. How did you attack so quickly?" the coward's savior asked. "I added agility," Gu Fei said. "Oh right, it's a game." The coward's savior's character was obviously confused. "How did you add points?" Gu Fei asked. "Spirit, strength, and agility also increased a little," the coward's savior said. The Grandmaster of Combat's most special attack method was combo attacks. Spirit, which affected the speed of their skills, was very important to them. "It's okay, you can reset points when you reach level 40. Gu Fei really didn't think that he would have the opportunity to say this to someone else. But he still reminded him, "If you want to use Kung Fu to play the game, you must have agility. If it's just a game, then you don't have to worry about it." For normal people, this was a difficult choice. Obviously, Kung Fu skills and game skills were not compatible. For example, Gu Fei, if it weren't for the fact that he had an exquisite weapon, his mage side would be useless. He had the equipment to improve his mage side, but the coward's savior obviously didn't have it. Moreover, he didn't care about his profession in the game, but that didn't mean that other people thought the same. Everything depended on how much the coward's savior loved Kung Fu. "Alright, you can train here. Call me if you need anything." After Gu Fei finished teaching the coward's savior, he said goodbye to him. After leaving, Gu Fei went to train alone. In the meantime, he helped Yutian Shunming complete a few wanted quests. At around 7 o'clock, when Reborn Amethyst called for Gu Fei to train, Gu Fei didn't go with the excuse of helping Yutian Shunming with a quest. "Qianli, are you coming to train today?" Drifting asked. "No, I'm helping a friend with a quest," Gu Fei said. "Oh, then I'm not going either," Drifting said. Frankly speaking, for masters like Gu Fei and Drifting, solo training was faster than group training. Drifting was mainly interested in Gu Fei's magic, which was why he followed Amethyst's girls. Now that he saw that Gu Fei wasn't going, he naturally wouldn't waste time on this. If he was always distracted by these things, how could Drifting be one of the 5 strong ones? Unscathed in battle and Yutian Shenming were two living examples. Ever since they started training with Amethyst, their experience ranking had dropped to varying degrees. Actually, this job should have been done by Gu Fei. He didn't really care about leveling. Without the two masters, Reborn Amethyst's party naturally couldn't fight monsters above their level. The girls didn't mind and headed towards their usual leveling spot. Like Gu Fei, they didn't really care about leveling. Of course, it was better if they could fight monsters above their level, but it didn't matter if they couldn't. Currently, the topic they were talking about the most was Gu Fei and drifting. Could it be that they were having an affair? After 3 days, the officials officially announced the news of the confrontation. It was indeed the same as what Brother Yu had heard. It was a mercenary competition and a guild competition. It was said that there was supposed to be an individual competition, but due to the obvious class restriction, the individual competition was not balanced. Moreover, if it was only a competition between the same class, then the PK between clerics and paladins would be too low-tech, so naturally, it wouldn't be interesting to watch. There was only one content of the competition: Survival Challenge. The name sounded scary, but it was actually a counter-strike. 2 teams would be thrown into a random map and PK within a limited time. Defeat all the opponents, and the winner would win. If there were still players alive when the time was up, then the winner would be judged based on the number of enemies killed by both sides. The winner of each competition would receive fixed rewards of money and experience, as well as random items. The amount of rewards depended on their performance during the competition. In theory, if the time consumption was 0, the loss was 0, and the opponent was defeated, the reward would be the best. As the competition progressed, the experience and money rewards would increase, and the probability of the item rewards would increase. From the looks of it, the most attractive rewards were the exquisite equipment and the Eternal Skill Scroll. The Eternal Skill Scroll was a new item released by the game developers. It was said that after using it, it would grant a character a new skill. This skill might be something that could only be learned after leveling up a few dozen levels, or it might not even be in the skill tree. However, there was a limitation. It could only be a skill of the player's class. It was impossible for a sorcerer to master stealth. In the private room of Little Ray's bar, Brother Yu told everyone about the announcement on the official website. Because of Brother Yu, professional players like Sword Demon spent less time on the official website. Unless they needed to inquire about information or news, Brother Yu would announce it every day when they met. As soon as they finished talking about the Eternal Skill Scroll, Yutian Shenming became excited. If I get a bunch of scrolls, won't I be able to become a sharpshooter and stealth dual class player? Everyone looked at him with disdain. Yutian Shenming had obviously read too many YY novels. How could something like this happen to him? He wasn't the main character. To be able to do this, it's only possible if he's a crazy R&B warrior, Brother Yu said. Slender Dance. The others muttered this name. Gu Fei had heard of this name yesterday. It seemed that he was indeed worthy of being the most intrepid money player in history. As soon as the crazy money warrior was mentioned, these veterans all called out this name. Yutian, if you get this girl, maybe your wish will come true, Brother Yu said. Yutian Shenming's face showed a leisurely expression. This kind of rich girl probably won't be that childish. I'll have to do it. Unscathed in battle said shamelessly. The 2 perverts, one old and one young, were arguing. Stop talking nonsense. Han family young master slammed the table. Gu Fei pulled out his sword. Sword Demon pulled out his dagger. The 2 quieted down. Let's talk business. Han family young master said expressionlessly. I'm done. It's your turn. Brother Yu said. Oh. Han family young master nodded. After a while, he looked at everyone. Where's my wine glass? Sword Demon suddenly stood up. Let's talk about it tomorrow. He drank too much. Sit down. Han family young master looked at Sword Demon with disdain. Do you think I'm like you? Then he tapped the table and started talking business. In this competition, the big guilds and mercenary groups will try to eliminate their opponents as fast as possible. As for the small guilds, they have no chance of winning in this kind of group battle. They can only use the second rule, which is to kill as many enemies as possible, and then play hide and seek. This rule should be set to protect the small guilds. When we meet the big mercenary groups, we can only use this method. But if there's such a rule, then there should be some restrictions on thief stealth. The Han family's young master said. Brother Yu was stunned for a moment before nodding. You think quite fast. There are restrictions, but the rules haven't been announced yet. The Han clan's young master smiled. Now you understand what it means to have both beauty and intelligence. Chapter 137. After everyone vomited a bit, Brother Yu began to introduce the information he gathered about the major mercenary groups in Cloud City. Black Hand Mercenary Group. This is currently the most famous mercenary group in Cloud City. Level 5, 100 members. The leader is Black Index Finger, a level 40 warrior. This mercenary group exists independently and isn't attached to any guild in Cloud City. Since its establishment, it has been developing steadily and accumulating to today's achievements. It can be said that the leader has managed it well. Brother Yu paused when he said that and looked askance at young Master Han with everyone else. Han family young master expressionlessly took a sip of wine and said, The mercenary group is called Black Hand and the leader is called Index Finger? Is there a thumb, middle finger, and little finger? Brother Yu shook his head. There are no similar names in the mercenary group. Han family young master shook his head and said, Maybe the other members are in other cities and Black Hand is their unified name. It seems that the names of mercenary groups in different cities can be repeated. Brother Yu nodded his head. It can be repeated. Gu Fei interrupted. There is a Black Hand mercenary group in Moonlit Night City. What's the leader's name? I don't know. It's just a small mercenary group. Gu Fei said. Let's not worry about it for now. In any case, we have to face these 100 people. Brother Yu continue. Han family young master said. The second largest mercenary group in Cloud City is the Four Seas Mercenary Group. Just like the name says, it is a mercenary group formed by unhindered Four Seas. It is also level 5 and has 100 members. The leader is Reflection Years we've met before. Brother Yu said. Who is it? Gu Fei asked. The one you tricked into Black Dragon Cave. Yu Tianxinming reminded. Oh, Gu Fei got up. It wasn't that he didn't remember this person, but he didn't even know this person's name. He was different from Brother Yu and the other four. The 5 of them had known some IDs for a long time. It was just that there were many different online games in the past. At the same time, each online game had a different server. Therefore, many experts had only heard of each other, but had never met each other. Now that the parallel world had appeared, all the players were under its banner. This was a true gathering of experts, and the situation was very different from before. The members of the Four Seas Mercenary Group are all from unhindered Four Seas. Honestly, I think their strength is above Black Hand Mercenary Group. But according to how people usually evaluate mercenary groups, they are mainly based on how they complete their missions, so they are ranked second. Brother Yu said. Who cares if he is first or second? He is still an opponent. Han family young master said. In addition, there's also Upstream's Waterflower Mercenary Group. Level 4 with 80 members, it is currently the second largest guild in Cloud City, Singing to Wine's Guild Mercenary Group. There is also Upstream's Waterflower Mercenary Group. They are level 4 and have 80 people. They are currently the second largest guild in Cloud City. Young master, you are a member of this guild, right? Brother Yu continued. You should be more familiar with them. Brother Yu said. Upstream's guild leader is our guild leader. He also leads a mercenary group. You should be more familiar with this mercenary group. Brother Yu said. Rather than saying that this mercenary group was to cater to the interests of the guild members, it would be more accurate to say that it was an elite force that gathered the experts of the guild. The players in Drunken Songs were all members of this mercenary group. Apart from me, of course. Han family young master said. Then they are all people you know? What do we do then? Yu Tianxinming asked. We'll hide our faces and pretend we don't know them. What should we do? Han family young master said. Then are you going to participate in the guild competition? Brother Yu asked. Han family young master nodded. Brother Yu looked at the others. Besides young master, Qianli Yutian Wushang, you three also have your own guilds. Are you going to participate in the guild competition? The three nodded. Unscathed in battle, and Yutian Shunming looked at Gu Fei with envy. Reborn Amethyst? Gu Fei nodded. He turned his head to look at Sword Demon. Sword Demon, you don't have a guild? No. Sword Demon said. Gu Fei felt his heart clench. Could it be that his battle with the Sword Demon had ruined his dream of building a guild? Was that why he was so disheartened by the guild? Let's not talk about guilds. As for mercenary groups, the most outstanding ones in Cloud City are these three. As long as the 6 of us can deal with these 3, the others are nothing to worry about. Brother Yu said. The other 5 revealed disapproving expressions. The entire room was filled with a strong aura of experts. If people knew that a small mercenary group of 6 actually considered the 3 strongest mercenary groups in Cloud City as opponents, they wouldn't be able to help but laugh. But the 6 people in front of them were seriously discussing this problem. But among them, there is one special opponent. Brother Yu looked at them. Silvermoon. Moonlit City Dust Guild Silvermoon. Yutian Shunming was stunned. Brother Yu nodded. That's him. I don't know when he came to Cloud City and established a mercenary group called Nocturne under the moonlight. Although he's only level 2 and has less than 40 people, Silvermoon has an overpowered group battle skill. Everyone knows about it, right? So we have to be on guard against them. Okay, give me all the detailed information you've gathered about the mercenary group. I'll take a good look. Han family young master said. Brother Yu took out his notebook and gave it to Han family young master. That's it. The other 4 asked together. Actually, it was fine if the 4 of them didn't attend today's meeting. Although it was convenient to have fewer people, the leader of the mercenary group was the crazy young master of the Han family. In terms of strategy and tactics, he was a level higher than the others. Not to mention the fact that they couldn't come up with better suggestions than him. Even if they could, with his narcissistic personality, it was doubtful that he wouldn't accept it. It's fine. You guys go level up and look for valuable scrolls and equipment. Han family young master didn't agree with the saying, 3 heads are better than 1, and waved his hand to dismiss the 4 thugs. The 4 of them left the tavern. Yutian Shunming asked for Gu Fei's permission and went to complete his quest. Yutian Shunming's quest was smooth sailing. He only needed 31 more times to reach 100. His goal was to get a pair of shoes before the match began. The match would start next week, which was 2 days away from now. Gu Fei also promised that he would spend more time online for the next 2 days to help him complete the quest. As for Gu Fei, he had been running errands for Yutian Shunming for quite a bit of time. Otherwise, he would have been able to reach 40 dungeons without a hitch. After saying goodbye to the others, Gu Fei hurried over to Amethyst's place. Just now, Little Ray's bar was in a meeting when he received an emergency call. Gu Fei said he had something to do and ignored it. He dragged it out until now to ask if he still needed to go over, and to his surprise he received a positive reply. He quickly arrived at Amethyst's place and pushed the door open. He was about to laugh when he felt a murderous aura around him. There was no one around him. It was obviously a thief's stealth. Gu Fei didn't have time to draw his sword. He swung his hand to the side and firmly grabbed the opponent's wrist. Before the opponent could fully reveal himself, he pushed away the dagger with his left hand and grabbed the opponent's neck with his right hand. He yelled at the girls, "Get out of the way!" This bunch of silly girls actually let someone sneak into the guild. As Gu Fei thought about it, he stretched out his leg to trip the opponent, and used his right hand to push the opponent to the ground. The opponent was still in a blurry state of stealth. Both of his legs were hooked by Gu Fei, his right hand was removed by Gu Fei's left hand, and his neck was gripped by Gu Fei. His left hand was flailing wildly in the air. When Gu Fei saw the hand coming for him, he knew that it was an instinctive reaction when a person was about to fall. He wanted to dodge, but the speed of the claw was far faster than Gu Fei expected, and he managed to grab hold of it. Gu Fei was shocked. With his weak physique as a sorcerer, it wasn't hard for him to flip someone over, but now that the opponent had grabbed hold of Gu Fei and was about to pull him down, Gu Fei had no way of dispelling the momentum. His right hand was about to let go of the throat lock, but he quickly tightened his grip. He bent his body and legs, and crouched down in the direction of the falling opponent. Gu Fei also crouched down. Dust flew everywhere. It looked like the opponent had been cleanly pressed to the ground by Gu Fei, but Gu Fei was complaining in his heart. This was just a game. His actions of grabbing and pushing wouldn't deal much damage to the other party. His original plan was to push the opponent away, and then finish him off with his sword. He didn't expect the opponent to move so quickly and grab hold of Gu Fei, leaving him no room to draw his sword. At this time, his left hand was holding the opponent's dagger to the ground, and his right hand was gripping the opponent's throat. Gu Fei had no confidence in his own strength, and didn't think that he could suppress the opponent like this. He hurriedly pushed his right knee to the side, pressing it against the opponent's abdomen, and shouted, "Little Rain, come help me." Jun Rain was a warrior, and a single slap was enough to stop Gu Fei from using both his hands and feet. The surroundings were completely silent. Gu Fei felt that the atmosphere was a bit cold. When he looked down, the stealthy thief had completely revealed himself. A beautiful girl was lying on the ground, her right arm held down by Gu Fei's left hand, and her abdomen by Gu Fei's right knee. As for what the girl looked like, he didn't know. Gu Fei had used all his strength to choke the girl, causing her face to pale and her facial features to distort. If it weren't for her figure, it would be hard to tell whether she was a man or a woman. Gu Fei hesitated. His left hand, right knee, and right hand slowly moved away one by one. The pressure on the girl lessened, and she loosened her grip on Gu Fei's hand. She sprawled on the ground, panting. "What's going on?" Gu Fei frowned. He didn't recognize this person. Even though it was impossible for him to recognize all the girls in the reborn amethyst number 50 at a glance, he would definitely have an impression of someone with such outstanding looks. Luo Luo smiled as she walked out from the group of girls. She stood on top of the girl's head and looked down at her corpse. "Xiao Wu, you can't do it. You were pushed down by Qianli the moment you came up." "That's too cruel." The girl was still panting. "You almost choked me to death." As she spoke, she reached out to touch her neck. The two fingerprints of Gu Fei were gradually turning from red to green. To others it was a ghastly sight, but fortunately she couldn't see it. Gu Fei looked around blankly. The gazes around him were filled with smiles, surprise, and disbelief. But no matter what, he could tell that this girl wasn't an enemy. "What's going on?" Gu Fei asked. "Let me introduce you. This is someone who just joined our guild, Slender Waist Dance," Luo Luo said with a smile. Slender Waist Dance. The most valiant R&B warrior in history. She was mentioned in the mercenary group meeting just now, but he didn't expect to see her in person so soon. She was rich and so beautiful. If Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle saw this, who knew how crazy they would be? Gu Fei accidentally thought too far ahead. Slender Waist Dance still didn't move from the ground. She only raised her right wrist slightly and waved it randomly. "Hello." "Hello," Gu Fei replied. "Stop pretending to be a corpse and get up," Luo Luo said to Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance sat up and brought her right wrist in front of her eyes. Just like her neck, the two fingerprints were evolving. "Don't mess around next time. It's very dangerous to hide behind a door and scare people," Gu Fei said sincerely. Slender Waist Dance smiled and said, "Then I'll try again." "What?" Gu Fei was startled. Slender Waist Dance suddenly stood up and leaned forward. Her arm was already thrusting the dagger towards him. So fast. Gu Fei was shocked. Slender Waist Dance was clearly above him in both movement speed and attack speed. From this, it seemed that it wasn't a coincidence that she had grabbed him. It wasn't hard to understand. Slender Waist Dance was known as the most valiant R&B warrior. She could be lacking in everything, but her equipment would definitely be the best. With a full set of exquisite equipment from head to toe, even a newbie player could fly up the branches like a phoenix. Slender Waist Dance was a thief with an advantage in agility. With a full set of exquisite equipment, it wasn't surprising that she was faster than Gu Fei. But in the face of Slender Waist Dance's attack, Gu Fei didn't dodge or dodge. Slender Waist Dance stopped midway and looked at him in confusion. "Why aren't you attacking?" Chapter 138. Yeah, why aren't you making a move? Everyone looked at Gu Fei in confusion. Gu Fei smiled disapprovingly. What's there to do? If I make a move, you'll die? Fuck kid, you're quite arrogant. Slim Waist Dance yelled. Woman, you're also quite arrogant. Gu Fei said. Come. Today, I'm definitely going to go 300 rounds with you. Slim Waist Dance said. Gu Fei wasn't moved at all. He only asked. You put all your points into dexterity, right? Slim Waist Dance nodded. That's right. So what? Gu Fei said. If it's just a casual spar, I might not be able to beat you. If we really fight, you're going to die. Gu Fei was speaking the truth. Slim Waist Dance's speed was much higher than Gu Fei's. In close combat, Gu Fei wasn't completely confident. Currently, the most reliable way for Gu Fei to deal with her was to pull away a bit and take advantage of the moment she got close to him to instantly kill her with double flame flash. If this attack didn't instantly kill her and Slim Waist Dance got close to him, the result would be hard to predict. After all, Slim Waist Dance used a dagger, while Gu Fei used a longsword. The former was more suitable for close combat. In addition, Gu Fei's movement speed was far inferior to Slim Waist Dance's. If she got close to him, there was basically no way for him to pull away. Gu Fei's movement speed was already shocking enough, but Slim Waist Dance was actually so much faster than him. He really didn't know what kind of crazy equipment she had. Although the only equipment that could increase movement speed was shoes, if Slim Waist Dance had a full set of equipment that added agility, it would obviously increase her speed by a large amount. As for attack speed, the difference in this aspect wouldn't be as big as movement speed, but Slim Waist Dance was still better than Gu Fei. However, to fully utilize the advantage of attack speed, just having fast hands wasn't enough. One's eyes and fighting awareness had to be even faster. On this point, Gu Fei was confident that no one could compare to him. His 20 years of hard work in this area was reflected in the game. Gu Fei's honesty made Slim Waist Dance so angry that her nose was crooked. She glared at him and said, Come. You don't need to spar casually. You can fight for real. It's fine even if you kill me. Really? Gu Fei's eyes lit up as he pulled out the Night Streamer sword from his pocket. When it came to PK, who could be stronger than Gu Fei? This was what Gu Fei was aiming for in the game. Even if he accidentally killed Slender Waist Dance and lost a level, this loss was as insignificant as a feather in Gu Fei's eyes. His main worry was that killing Slender Waist Dance would not be good. Since the other party didn't mind, it couldn't be any better. Moreover, even if it was a close combat battle, Gu Fei only gave her the evaluation of having a chance of winning after improving her waist dance to a certain standard. If her actual combat experience was average and she just slashed like a normal player, then Gu Fei could kill her with his bare hands. Of course, since they were fighting for real, Gu Fei obviously had to use the most effective method. He believed that Slender Waist Dance would not have the opportunity to fight in close combat. Thinking about this, Gu Fei got into a stance. Come, Gu Fei said. He enjoyed PK and didn't care about the loss if he died. How could a normal person compare to the calmness that Gu Fei displayed during PK? Moreover, this calmness was too strong. It was so strong that it had become a psychological attack. At this time, Slender Waist Dance's heart was already beating like a drum. Of course, she was even less confident. She had already been pushed down by Gu Fei. Humph. Slender Waist Dance suddenly snorted. I almost fell for your trap. You can kill me without hesitation, but I have to be careful and leave you alive. You're so sly. No need, Gu Fei said. You don't have to go easy on me. Slender Waist Dance's face was full of tears. This animal, he didn't even give her a chance to escape. Slender Waist Dance thought angrily. Looking at Gu Fei holding a long sword, she suddenly said, You're a mage. How can you use a sword? Don't change the topic. Bastard. July, didn't you want to talk about the guild war? Hey, Luoluo, after the meeting, take me to your little raised bar to broaden my horizons. Sigh, since you're afraid, then forget it. Gu Fei resentfully put away his sword. Afraid? I'm afraid. Slender Waist Dance roared and turned around. Gu Fei quickly used the sword draw technique. and the sword returned to his hand as if he was performing a magic trick. I'm at 41. 92 experience right now. I just don't want to die and drop 2 levels. Wait until I reach 42, then I'll take care of you. Slender Waist Dance said. This sounded reasonable, but if Slender Waist Dance could really take care of Gu Fei, as she said, why would she need to worry about the punishment of dropping levels? Gu Fei thought this and found it funny. He put away his sword inside. Forget it, that's it. Sigh women. As soon as she finished sighing, she realized that something was wrong. In this room, besides Gu Fei, everyone was a woman. Wasn't she looking for trouble by sighing like this? Thinking of this, Gu Fei hurriedly said, some women just can't be seen in public. July. I don't think we should let this kind of person join the guild at such a tense time. What if she drags us down in the guild war? Absolute silence. One of the 5 roaches of the parallel world. What kind of insult was it to be looked down upon as a hindrance? Slender Waist Dance was on the verge of collapse, but she quickly calmed down. Humph, you want to provoke me to fight you? I won't fall for it. That was close. Gu Fei secretly wiped the sweat off his forehead. They were considered companions, so Gu Fei normally wouldn't speak so harshly to his own people. But in the situation just now, if she wasn't the only one feeling uncomfortable, then she would have to make all 50 of them feel uncomfortable. It was better to let the few suffer and help the majority. Luckily, Slender Waist Dance's ability to find a way out of this embarrassing situation was unparalleled. Thinking of this, Gu Fei looked toward Slender Waist Dance, and saw that she was also glaring at him. Seeing him look over, she humphed and turned her head to the other side. Reborn Amethyst's meeting officially began. Hearing this, Gu Fei got a headache. He didn't know if these kinds of meetings in the game were all like this. Just like how Brother Yu introduced the large mercenary groups in Cloud City, July was introducing the guilds in Cloud City. But the problem was that the child elite group was full of experts. Although there were only 6 of them, they were all aiming for the championship. That was why Brother Yu only focused on the 3 strongest mercenary groups. But July was different. The biggest advantage of Reborn Amethyst was that they didn't show off and understood their own strengths. As a result, in July's introduction, guilds that were similar to Reborn Amethyst became the main targets. There were many guilds like this, and no one knew when she would finish introducing them. Gu Fei listened in confusion, and finally couldn't hold it in. He was about to speak, but someone beat him to it. Reporting to Big Sister July. Xiao Wu, what's the matter? The one who raised her hand was Slender Waist Dance. I heard that this guild competition is an elimination system, and the opponents are randomly chosen. It can't be that coincidental that we'll be matched with guilds that are similar to us, right? Slender Waist Dance said. Of course it can't be that coincidental. It's just that if it's a guild that's stronger than us, we won't be their opponent. If it's a weak guild, then we can easily win. So there's no need to understand them, right? It was obvious that July had considered this problem. You're wrong to think like that, Slender Waist Dance said solemnly. We should view our strongest enemies as our opponents. If we can even deal with them, then there's no need to worry about those that are weaker than them. You're just blindly staring at people that are similar to us. This kind of thinking is too. Not thinking about progress. Someone summarized Slender Waist Dance. Yes. Slender Waist Dance nodded. Then she realized that the voice wasn't right. It was obviously a man. She turned her head and saw Gu Fei looking at her with a smile. She immediately twisted her neck and said, "No, it's not, it's being passive. It's being content with a little bit of wealth." Fuck women. Gu Fei sighed in his heart. Then what do you think we should do? July said helplessly. Pick out 2 or 3 of the strongest guilds in Cloud City and introduce them. We'll just treat them as imaginary enemies. What does everyone think? Slender Waist Dance still knew to ask for the opinions of the crowd. Unfortunately, this was a guild formed by the people July gathered. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Most of the people's thoughts were the same as July's. The girls who were reborn as Amethyst were indeed content with a little bit of wealth. They didn't have any desire to fight for supremacy. Treating the strongest guild as imaginary enemies, Most of the people felt that there was no need to be so diligent. When Slender Waist Dance asked this, everyone was silent. A little dance's words do make sense. Is there anyone who thinks that we should do this? Raise your hand. July said. Slender Waist Dance saw that she wasn't too lonely. There were still people who agreed with her, even though there were only two. When she saw that one of them was Gu Fei, she immediately mocked. You really don't have your own opinions. You're just following the crowd. Gu Fei broke down. This girl really couldn't distinguish between public and private matters. She took every opportunity to vent her anger. At this moment, he was too lazy to pay attention to her. Instead, he looked towards the other supporter. With one glance, Gu Fei felt that this world was really unpredictable. The other supporter was fiercely. They were clearly two people who didn't get along with him, so why were they standing in the same line? Life was really gloomy. July saw that the number of people was clearly disproportionate, so she said, how about this, let's continue to introduce these guilds. Once we're done, we'll also introduce the big guilds. Gu Fei cried. If this went on, would there ever be an end to this meeting? As he thought about it, he inadvertently saw Slender Waist Dance's crumbling expression. Oh, it seemed that this woman's thoughts were exactly the same as his. What do you mean by creating a strong imaginary enemy? You just want to end this meeting as soon as possible. Chapter 139. Gu Fei leaned against the wall drowsily, but July was still talking non-stop. She was probably tired of talking too much. After all, guilds were more or less the same. By the time she got to the big guild, it had become, unhindered, a level 5 guild with 750 members. Guild leader, unsworn sword. Disdain, this was blatant disdain. Gu Fei thought that this group of girls were too lax in their handling of matters. They should have been introduced in a more serious manner. But this simple information was enough to make the girls sigh. In comparison, Reborn Amethyst, a level 2 guild, only had 54 members including the newcomer, Slender Waist Dance. It was obviously unrealistic to let these girls fight against 15 people on the battlefield. It seemed that the idea of an imaginary enemy wasn't logical for Reborn Amethyst. Gu Fei thought. Fortunately, the introduction of the guild ended here. Gu Fei let out a long sigh. But July also let out 2 long sighs and perked herself up. Now let's talk about the mercenary group. Gu Fei raised his hand. 7. I don't need to listen to that, right? Before July could speak, Slender Waist Dance answered. Why don't you listen? Aren't you a member of the guild? I have another mercenary group. Gu Fei patted his chest. For the first time, he felt proud of being a member of the child elite group. Slender Waist Dance said angrily. What's going on? Joining a guild but not joining a guild group, is this allowed? Boycott it. Hurry up and leave your group, come back and join a guild, then listen to big sisters report together. Gu Fei was also furious. This woman was too vicious. She clearly wanted to drag him down with her, and the two of them would die from mental torture. Fortunately, July was the judge. All right, those who don't join the mercenary group don't need to listen. Half of the girls left, leaving Gu Fei with a smug look on his face. He was so angry that Slender Waist Dance stomped her feet. Xiao Wu, will you join the mercenary group? As one of the top 5, how could he not participate in this kind of activity? However, July still asked with an impartial attitude. Yes, of course I will. I'll teach that guy a lesson at the mercenary competition. Thin Waist Dance said. Don't you have a regiment? Someone asked curiously. Similarly, how could one of the top 5 not join a mercenary group? I have my own group. I'll disband it immediately. Slender Waist Dance replied. She then glared at Gu Fei and said, see you at the mercenary confrontation. Gu Fei laughed. That's a good suggestion. You won't have an excuse to lose levels then. Gu Fei nodded at her, and left the Reborn Amethyst. I headed straight for the outskirts of the city to level up. However, leveling up for the past few days had not been peaceful at all. As expected, Yutian Shiming was already yelling for help after only a short while. Where? Gu Fei asked dejectedly. Little Ray's bar. Yutian Shiming reported. After helping out for the past few days, Gu Fei had fought the most fights in the tavern. Most of the wild guys Yutian Shenming just had to sneakily snipe and shoot a few arrows to finish them off. Is there anyone in the private room? Call him out and help. Gongzi is here. He's useless, Yutian Shenming said. I'll be there soon. Gu Fei gloomily returned to the city. Outside Little Ray's bar, there was no sign of Yutian Shenming. Where is he? The message asked. In the room, Yutian Shenming said. In the past, Yutian Shenming would wait outside the tavern. If the other party was about to leave, he would find a chance to ambush them. That way he wouldn't have to bother Gu Fei. What was going on today? Gu Fei muttered as he entered Little Ray's bar. After entering, he glanced around and almost exploded with anger. No wonder Yutian Shenming wasn't standing guard at the door today. At this time, he was drinking and chatting merrily with two girls. The two girls were Luoluo and Slender Waist Dance. Earlier, when they were changing the topic, Slender Waist Dance did mention that she wanted Luoluo to bring her to Little Ray's bar. Gu Fei held back his anger and walked over. 1 meter away from the table. The two girls had already seen Gu Fei, but Yutian Shenming hadn't noticed him at all. Gu Fei was infuriated and grabbed him. Which one? He's here. This is nonsense. How could I not know him? Gu Fei snapped. Slender Waist Dance turned her head. Gu Fei also glanced at her contemptuously and continued to ask Yutian Shenming. Which one? Don't rush. Let me see. Yutian Shenming stretched his neck and looked around the tavern. After hanging out with the beauties for a while, he didn't know where the target was. Gu Fei had already made up his mind. If the target wasn't in the tavern, he would immediately hack Yutian Shenming to death. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Yutian Shenming pointed at a table for 6 and said, "The thief at that table." Little Ray. Gu Fei shouted as he threw a gold coin over. Some regulars had been paying attention to Gu Fei since he entered the tavern. When they saw this, they immediately realized what was going to happen and cried out in alarm. Sure enough, this cry was like a starting gun. Gu Fei shot out like an arrow and shouted, "Wanted quest." He rushed up and flipped the table over with a kick. Gu Fei wasn't in a good mood, so his attitude was much more aggressive. The faces of everyone at the table changed. Gu Fei's sword had already reached the thief's body. Shoot. When Gu Fei shouted, Yutian Shenming had already shot. The tracking arrow whizzed through the narrow gaps in the room like a go-kart. In the blink of an eye, it was already nailed to the thief's head. The thief flashed with white light and disappeared. Gu Fei and Yutian Shenming had already used this technique several times. As two experts with great knowledge, it could be said to be flawless. The remaining 5 opened their mouths and didn't react for a moment. Gu Fei was already threatening them. It's fine. Let's go. If you die, you'll lose a level. For some of the more courageous players, losing a level was a small matter, but losing face was more important. Now that everyone in the tavern was watching, how could they be scared off with just one sentence? Even if they were pretending, they still had to fight. Didn't they see the 2 beauties over there? The 5 of them had the same thought, and were about to attack. Then I won't be polite. Gu Fei was still threatening them when he felt a gust of wind pass by him. Then he saw a figure appear in the enemy's formation. With a slash to the left and a slash to the right, 2 of the 5 opponents were already taken care of. Then, the figure nimbly circled around and flashed behind one person. With a backstab, he killed another person. Then he stabbed another to the side and killed the 4th person. Then he nimbly circled around again. The dagger in his hand disappeared, and was replaced with a wooden stick. He waved his hands and used sap on the back of the 5th person's head. Are you a man? Why are you so noisy in a fight? Slender Waist Dance looked at Gu Fei in disdain. Then she changed to a dagger and killed the 5th person. On the other side, Yutian Shenming was already cheering. Beautiful. As expected of the 5 roaches. Motherfucker. Gu Fei cursed in his heart. They really are the 5 roaches. They even have the same problem. Stealing my business. Slender Waist Dance snorted at Gu Fei and returned to her seat, as if there was no one else around. Only Yutian Shenming's praises could be heard in the tavern. The other players were stunned for a while. Then they suddenly started discussing. The 5 roaches. Did you hear that? Slender waist dance, it's slender waist dance. The men shouted with extremely perverted eyes. What are you shouting for? Have you never seen a beauty before? Slender waist dance turned her head and glared at them. Everyone shut up. Although she was a woman, she was one of the 5 roaches. Moreover, everyone saw how she killed with their own eyes. Slender waist dance came to Cloud City. Everyone whispered and quickly spread the news throughout the city. On the other side, Yutian Shenming was still praising Slender Waist Dance's attack. It was undeniable that although this damn kid was perverted when he saw a beauty, his eyes were not blind. Slender Waist Dance killed 5 people in an instant. It was even more shocking than when she was drifting. First of all, Gu Fei knew that she added all her points into agility. Even so, she could still kill people in an instant. One could imagine how terrifying the damage of her equipment was. In addition, her attacks were not blind at all. This could be seen from the order of her attacks. Normal attacks instantly killed the 2 mages with the lowest health. Backstab instantly killed the warrior. Assassinate instantly killed the priest. Then she used sap on the paladin. What was even more terrifying was that this woman's reaction speed was amazing. She didn't even stop when she killed people. She completed a series of attacks with the speed of sprinting. Gu Fei had seen sprinting to the front and stabbing people before. However, this was the first time he had seen her sprinting and killing people in an instant. This woman was very strong. Gu Fei could already be sure. This kind of reaction speed alone was a talent that normal people didn't have. Moreover, her gaming skills were not below top players like Sword Demon and the others. In addition, she spent money to buy exquisite equipment that normal people didn't have. Abnormal was a description of this kind of person. Not bad. Gu Fei couldn't help but praise her from a realistic point of view. Are you afraid? Slender Waist Dance said. I'm not afraid of anything in PK. I'm only afraid of one thing. Gu Fei said. What? I'm afraid that the opponent is weak. Gu Fei waved his hand. Tisich. Yutian Shenming looked at him with disdain. Go to your mission. Gu Fei kicked him. Yutian Shenming looked at the 2 beauties. After an internal struggle, he left with hatred. In the end, not even 2 seconds after leaving the door, he suddenly flashed back. Gu Fei thought that someone came to take revenge on him. However, he saw Yutian Shenming rush back and walk straight towards Gu Fei. He excitedly whispered to him. There's another beauty outside. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the tavern was pushed open. Hi, little Tian. Gu Fei greeted the person who came in. Oh, you violent guy. You're here too, Shi Xiaotian said. Yutian Shenming was dumbfounded. Is there a woman in Cloud City that you don't know? Tsk men. Slender Waist Dance finally found the opportunity to taunt Gu Fei. Chapter 140. Yutian Shenming usually had the problem of not being able to move his legs when he saw a girl, let alone when he saw a top-notch beauty like Shi Xiaotian. In an instant, Yutian Shenming's legs became as soft as noodles. He took advantage of the situation and sat back down on the bench. You're not doing the mission anymore? Gu Fei asked him. No rush, Yutian Shenming said calmly. I'm not far from it. There are still 2 days left, so there's plenty of time. What mission? The girls asked curiously. Wanted mission. After completing 100 times in a row, you'll be rewarded with a decent pair of shoes. Qianli, take off your shoes and let's take a look, Yutian Shenming said. Gu Fei was furious. Whenever there were girls around, Yutian Shenming would pretend to be like a garlic. The wind chaser boots that made him salivate the moment he saw them had now become decent, and he even ordered him to take off his shoes. But Gu Fei also knew that if he made Yutian Shenming unable to raise his head in front of the girls, it would be worse than letting him die. He could only swallow his anger and follow his orders to take off his shoes for everyone to see. Are you selling it? This was the first thing Slender Waist Dance said after seeing it. Gu Fei looked at her and slowly put on his shoes, using his actions to answer her. Slender Waist Dance turned her head. It's just a little better than mine. She took off her shoes for everyone to see. Swift cloud boots. Movement plus 58. Movement speed increased by 35%. TSK, it's not good. It's 2 points lower than mine, Gu Fei said in a serious tone. In reality, everyone knew that 2 points of movement was completely negligible, but because of the bickering between the two, a mere 2 points of movement had become a perfect suppression. Of course, Slender Waist Dance couldn't take this lying down. She pushed her swift cloud boots. How about you sell it to me at the market price? When you're done, I'll give you this pair. Rare items like the Windchaser boots did not have a market price, so naturally, Gu Fei had to ask for a high price. Moreover, Slim Waist Dance also promised to give him the Windchaser boots directly, which was equivalent to spending 1 day's worth of money to buy 2 movement speed points. This proved that she was definitely the most powerful money warrior in history. This business was like a pie falling from the sky. Even Gu Fei, who had no desire for money, was tempted. However, if he agreed to it, it would mean that he would be defeated by Slim Waist Dance's money attack. He could not give her a chance to defeat him, not even at this level. As soon as Gu Fei thought of this, he immediately refused. Slim Waist Dance looked disappointed, but she didn't pester him anymore. Gu Fei could see that this girl was not so rich that she would burn her money just to get a 2-point shift. Her bickering with Gu Fei was even more serious than Gu Fei's feelings towards her. She was indignant that her shoes were not as good as Gu Fei's, which was why she was willing to be a sucker to win this 2-point shift battle. Unfortunately, he failed. Why was he getting angry over such a small matter? He was really childish. As Gu Fei thought about it, he was about to agree to it when Yutian Shenming beat him to it. I can get this pair of shoes from my quest soon. I'll sell it to you. Slim Waist Dance was overjoyed. You have to keep your word. Of course. Yutian Shenming nodded furiously. Gu Fei actually didn't accept the pie falling from the sky, causing it to fall into his bowl. Yutian Shenming reckoned that he would be so excited that he wouldn't be able to sleep today. Gu Fei let out a long sigh. The money attack was too scary. Look, an innocent young man had been corrupted just like that. To prevent any accidents from happening, Yutian Shenming actually abandoned the beauty and stood up. Then I'll hurry to the quest. Don't ask for my help. Seeing that he was too proud, Gu Fei felt that he had to wake him up. Yutian Shenming was shocked. Big brother, don't be like this. That's the right attitude. Just as Gu Fei was feeling satisfied, Slim Waist Dance suddenly jumped out. What do you need him for? I'll help you. Yutian Shenming was extremely excited. Which god was blessing him today? Not only did he get a big deal, but he also got the dreamlike treatment of working together with a beauty for a quest. He already had money and beauties. What else was there to pursue in life? Yutian Shenming waved his hand at Gu Fei. Alright, go do what you need to do. With that, he left with Slim Waist Dance. Before Slim Waist Dance left, she deliberately turned around and gave Gu Fei a provocative look. What happened? Shi Xiaotian was a bit confused. This girl is picking a fight with Qianli. Luoluo laughed. Why? Shi Xiaotian asked. Qianli pushed her down, Luoluo said. Shi Xiaotian was quite surprised. That's too explosive. No. Gu Fei argued. She sneak attacked me, and then I pushed her down. Yes. Then she pressed her down on the ground and didn't let her get up, Luoluo said. That was self-defense, Gu Fei said. Hee, I don't know about that. Luoluo enjoyed Gu Fei's embarrassment. Shi Xiaotian's eyes were already wide open. By the way, why did she sneak attack me? Gu Fei suddenly asked. I have something to do, so I'll go first. You two talk. Luoluo got up and was about to go out. Stop right there. Did you instigate her? Gu Fei chased after her. The two of them went out one after the other. Shi Xiaotian was left alone in his seat, and he was even more confused. What's going on? Why did you invite me here? The weekend passed by quickly. Monday night at 7 o'clock, the competition was about to begin. Because many players had the dual identity of mercenaries and guild members, the mercenary competition and the guild competition were held separately. On Monday night, the first event was the mercenary tournament. The 6 members of the child elite group were gathered at Little Ray's bar for the final battle meeting. The competition rules have been fully released, Brother Yu said. There is one thing worth paying attention to. Based on the total number of participants, a map of the appropriate size will be chosen from the 12 competition maps. In other words, the map is fixed. Therefore, studying the map should increase our chances of winning. Also, Brother Yu continued, the usage limit for Rogue Stealth has also been released. In the competition, the stealth skills time limit is set to only 30 seconds, and the cooldown is 3 minutes. It's impossible to rely on this to play hide and seek. Let others worry about this kind of thing. Our goal is a complete victory, Han Family Young Master said. Let's keep a low profile. We only have 6 people. Do you think it makes sense to face 100 people from a big guild? Brother Yu said. With my strategy and tactics, this won't be a problem, ha 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 ha. Han Family Young Master laughed, then looked at the time. There's still half an hour left. Is everyone ready? No one had time to answer. Suddenly, the door curtain of the private room was rolled up, and a person rushed in like the wind. A right foot suddenly stepped on the table, pointing at his right foot and said, "Look, what's this? Little Ray, what's going on?" Han Family Young Master looked at Little Ray, who was still lifting the door curtain. Xiaolei shrugged his shoulders. There's nothing we can do about it. The fee she offered to open her mouth is much higher than the fee you offered to close it. Who are you looking for? Han Family Young Master asked with a frown. Slenderwaist Dance's foot was in front of Gu Fei, but Gu Fei kept his head down and didn't respond. Slenderwaist Dance pushed him. Hey, are you playing dead? Gu Fei's body swayed, then he straightened up. Is the meeting over? Han Family Young Master was furious. You fell asleep again. Recently you always fall asleep in the meetings. Gu Fei made a bitter face. Recently I've been listening to you guys talk about rules and things to pay attention to. It's too tiring. Yeah, I can't stand it anymore. Slenderwaist Dance agreed. Gu Fei then noticed that someone had stepped on the table in front of him. He turned his head and looked. What are you doing? What are you doing here? Look, my shoes. Slenderwaist Dance pointed at the shoes and said to Gu Fei. I know, Yutian already told me. Gu Fei said. Looking at Yutian Shenming, Han Family Young Master's face darkened even more. Brother Yu pushed Yutian Shenming. Yutian, stop sleeping. Is the meeting over? Yutian Shenming straightened up. His reaction was exactly the same as Gu Fei's. Are you all fucking sleeping? Han Family Young Master roared. Sleeping? Who's sleeping? I'm not sleeping. Unscathed in Battle hurriedly said. Suddenly his gaze froze and he stood up abruptly. Beauty, what's your name? He had just seen Slenderwaist Dance. Who would believe him if he said he wasn't sleeping? Brother Yu looked around and counted the number of people. That's not right. Where's Sword Demon? Including Slenderwaist Dance, there were only 6 people in the room. He's here, I remember. Brother Yu said. And he was sitting beside me just now. When did he go out? Yutian Shenming said as he patted the empty seat beside him. Yutian Shenming screamed. Then a figure slowly appeared on the seat. Sword Demon calmly said, I'm here. Sleeping in stealth. Too cunning. The other 3 people who were almost killed by Han Family Young Master's glare all criticized him. Actually, no one could be sure if he was asleep or not while he was in stealth, but Sword Ghost was a daring person. Since everyone had already guessed it, he didn't bother to explain himself. He simply asked, Is the meeting over? Han Family Young Master almost crushed the wine glass in his hand, while Brother Yu smiled helplessly. Is this your mercenary group? Slenderwaist Dance asked Gu Fei. Gu Fei nodded. It's a mess. You should come back to our mercenary group. Although she had always been unhappy with Gu Fei, the fact that she had this kind of attitude meant that in Slenderwaist Dance's eyes, Gu Fei was still considered a talent. It was very obvious that apart from Gu Fei, the 6 people in the mercenary group were all treated as a motley crew, and the reactions of the 5 masters were worth pondering. Brother Yu only smiled and didn't say a word. With Yutian Shenming's personality, he would definitely jump up and shout at this time. But the problem was that this was a beautiful woman, so he pretended to be deep. Unscathed in Battle also had a face full of tolerance, and his starting point was the same as Yutian Shenming. Sword Demon carefully looked at Slender Waist Dance and didn't say a word. Han Family Young Master put away the anger on his face and asked with a smile. Beautiful, how do I address you? Which mercenary group are you from? Slender Waist Dance, Amethyst Mercenary Group. Slender Waist Dance replied. Oh, then see you at the competition, Han Family Young Master said. Oh. Slender Waist Dance suddenly felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. She wanted to persuade Gu Fei again, but in the end, she couldn't open her mouth and left after responding. Butterfly knot. The competition is about to begin. Chapter 141. 10 minutes to 7. The players preparing to participate in the mercenary group competition gathered at the plaza outside the Mercenary Union. The officials said that they would set up a teleportation circle here, and the participating players would enter the map through the teleportation circle. The players, who had been taught that participation was the most important thing since they were young, showed a high sense of responsibility at this time. Almost all the players who had a mercenary group didn't refuse to participate in the competition. At this time, there was a sea of people outside the Mercenary Union. Not only did it fill up the plaza, but the streets leading to the plaza were also densely packed. This scene naturally made the game company happy, and at the same time, they issued an urgent system notification. Because this is the first round of the competition, the number of participants has reached its peak. The entry time has been extended, please hurry up. The players complained, including the 6 members of the Child Elite group. The 6 of them had just reached the street leading to the plaza when they were separated. Gu Fei realized that the crowd was now divided into several groups based on strength, and he was in the weakest group, surrounded by weak mages who looked like they could be poked to death with a finger. Where are they? When Gu Fei asked in the mercenary channel, he realized that the other 5 guys were also asking the same question. In the blink of an eye, it was already 7 o'clock, and Gu Fei hadn't even moved a single step. At this time, the system had already announced the start of the entrance. The crowd suddenly began to move, and the people in the plaza continuously teleported through the teleportation circle. The people still piled up on the street were able to move at a movement speed of 1. 10 minutes later, the system was forced to send another notification. The first round is a special situation, so there is no time limit, everyone take your time. I'm entering. The first of the 6 elite group members to arrive at the teleportation circle was unexpectedly the Han Family Young Master. How is this possible? Gu Fei was shocked. In theory, it should be unscathed in battle's first place. Seduction, it's seduction, Yutian Shenming said with certainty. He didn't know if he had already been seduced. Gu Fei was silent. With the Han Family Young Master's stunning face, it was too easy to pretend to be a woman. He reckoned that the others would immediately think that this was a beautiful woman and immediately display their gentlemanly demeanor, immediately letting him ladies first. Ha! The opponent is ready. The Han Family Young Master entered the arena and reported. Fuck. 1 person. This was not unusual. There were many players who preferred to be lone wolves. In fact, many mercenary groups only had 1 person. Moreover, this group was very large, so it was normal to be drawn in the first round. However, a few messages popped up in the mercenary channel at the same time. The content was the same. I'm not going then. Fuck. The Han Family Young Master was furious. No matter how strong he was still a priest. Even if he could protect himself, he did not have the ability to kill his opponent. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that there were a total of 4 sentences of, I'm not going, which meant that there was still 1 person who hadn't said it. Qianli. Han Family Young Master asked cautiously. The current situation was very tense. Although the Han Family Young Master was the leader of the mercenary group, in reality, everyone in the mercenary group was on equal footing. If they really wanted to order him around, no one would be able to order Han Family Young Master around. Now that the 4 masters said that they wouldn't come and were nowhere to be seen. If Gu Fei also didn't come, then wouldn't he, as a priest, be trampled on by the enemies in the battlefield? Luckily, Gu Fei would not let go of any chance to PK. He immediately nodded and said, Then let me do it. The Han family young master let out a sigh of relief. However, he still said with lingering fear, "You four remember this." Tisk. The four of them looked at him with disdain. Gu Fei couldn't squeeze through the crowd. He could only move along with the crowd bit by bit. When he arrived at the teleportation portal and entered the map, it was already half an hour later. Blue sky, white clouds, great earth, and Han family young master. These were the first four things that Gu Fei saw after entering the map. "Let's start," said the Han family young master. Originally, the competition would automatically start when the time was up. However, since the time limit was removed for the first round, it naturally meant that the standard starting time for the competition was also removed. After the system received the applications from both sides, it would allow the competition to start. After Gu Fei nodded, the Han family young master submitted his application. The system immediately started the countdown of 5 seconds. After 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the scene before their eyes flashed again. Only then did the two of them enter the real competition map. Compared to the plain land from before, the resources on this map were much more abundant. The 3 people participating in the battle were definitely the smallest type, but it had all the essentials. The terrain was high and low, there were water and trees. Apart from the white clouds in the sky, there were also a few silly birds flying. As for the border of the map, it was set to be a steep mountain with a 90-degree slope. Over there. The Han family young master looked at the map and pointed to the front. Because the map was really small, they could see the border of all 4 sides at a glance. The two's opponents were clearly standing in front of them, less than 200 meters away. Originally, a single-person mercenary group like this would definitely have the awareness of participation. Unless they encountered a mercenary group that was also a solo mercenary group, it could be said that they had no chance of winning. However, at this moment, when the opponent saw that there were only 2 of them, he immediately felt that there was still hope. He dashed out with vigorous steps and ran into a marsh in the blink of an eye, disappearing from the sight of Gu Fei and the young master. "Let's go." Gu Fei unsheathed his sword. Yes, the Han family young master followed behind Gu Fei. As the two approached, the players hiding in the marsh could already see clearly. The attire of Gu Fei and the Han family young master was very unique, allowing people to recognize one was a sorcerer and the other was a priest. They didn't even need to use identification skills. This player was a warrior. After seeing the two's classes, he had more thoughts in his mind. If the opponent was also a melee class with a priest, the warrior could basically give up the idea of winning. But now the opponent was a sorcerer, so as long as there was a chance to get close, the sorcerer's body was too small, even a priest wouldn't be able to withstand it. In order to take care of the Han family young master's speed, Gu Fei walked very slowly. However, after walking halfway, the Han family young master suddenly said, "You go take care of him, I'll go to the slope over there and take a look." "What's there to see?" Gu Fei was confused. "I'll take a look at the terrain." The official website didn't publish the map. Although this is the smallest map, I think the 12 maps should be similar in some aspects. "That place is higher, I'll go up and take a good look," the Han family young master said as he walked over. "Go." Gu Fei didn't understand what the Han family young master was talking about. The warrior, who was hiding in the pit and peeping, was overjoyed when he saw the two suddenly separated. Looking at the direction of the Han family young master, he thought that the two couldn't find him, so he wanted to go to the high ground to take a look. But one went to take a look, and the other continued to search. This decision was too fatal. The warrior laughed at the two rookies in his mind and retracted his neck. He had already seen the high ground that the Han family young master was going to, so he was ready to take a detour and take down the priest first. To prevent being discovered, the warrior lowered his head, almost lying on the ground, and carefully moved to the other side of the high ground. Everything went smoothly. The warrior made a big circle and came to the other side of the high ground. Looking up, he could see the Han family young master sitting on the top of the high ground, looking left and right. "Don't look back, don't look back, don't ever look back," the warrior murmured as he climbed out of the low ground and slowly moved up step by step. Unfortunately, he was a warrior and not a thief, With his heavy armor, no matter how light his footsteps were, it was inevitable that there would be friction sounds. At this time, the surroundings were quiet. The friction sounds were very ear-piercing. The warrior moved a few steps, feeling that it was impossible to approach quietly. On second thought, it was just a priest. Why would he need defensive power? Immediately, he took off his armor, grabbed his great sword and went forward. Now there was no sound. He lightened his footsteps and moved forward in silence, feeling very satisfied with himself. 30 meters more, 20 meters more, 10 meters more. The warrior approached the young master of the Han family step by step. Awesome. After dealing with this guy, he would find a place to trap a cat. Would he still have to worry about the mage? When he was 5 meters away from the Han family young master, the warrior was overjoyed. He could vaguely see victory waving at him. 3 meters. At this distance, he could attack. The warrior licked his lips, raised his sword with both hands, and pointed it at the Han family young master. When he was about to charge, suddenly someone patted his shoulder. The warrior was instantly petrified. Only after a while did he slowly turn around. The mage in black was standing behind him. The warrior opened his mouth wide, but did not say a word. He was still thinking of keeping quiet and launching a sneak attack. How did you? The warrior finally reacted. The sneak attack was no longer possible. I am your opponent, Gu Fei said. Is this a trap? The warrior was stunned. Of course not, Gu Fei said, and shouted at the Han family young master. Have you studied the map? Almost done, Han family young master said. He will be done soon. Go and get dressed, Gu Fei said to the warrior. What? The warrior was stunned. It will be easier to fight with the equipment. Look at you now. Do you have any defensive power? Gu Fei said. At this time, the Han family young master had already turned around and stood up. He frowned and said, What are you talking about? Finish it quickly. You are the one who wants to be slower, and you are the one who wants to be faster. Why is it so hard to be a human? Gu Fei mumbled. What do you mean? The warrior was still stunned. Oh, he said he wanted to look at the map, and wanted me to finish you slowly, so I followed you all the way. Sorry, Gu Fei said. You were always behind me? The warrior was surprised. Gu Fei nodded. Always. The warrior looked at Gu Fei, then looked at the Han family young master. One had a face full of expectation, the other a face full of impatience. What is this? The warrior said as he dropped his hands, as if he had lost the will to fight. Double flame flash. Gu Fei suddenly attacked, and the explosion of flames instantly killed the warrior. Why did you use whirlwind slash? Gu Fei said painfully. Aren't you forcing me to kill you? Isn't it better to play more? A white light flashed, and the two were sent out of the map. First match, Child Elite Group 1. Chapter 142. How's the reward? Han family young master asked Gu Fei, after they were teleported out of the map. It's all right. Gu Fei glanced at it. There was a slight increase in EXP and gold. This was only the first match, so the reward was the least. The further they went, the more they would get. Moreover, the chances of obtaining a random reward were higher. Ambitious people were all aiming for the random reward. As Gu Fei was at the back of the crowd, it was already very late by the time he entered the map and started the match. Furthermore, he had spent half a day in the map. By the time the two of them came out, the first round of the match had already ended. Other than the people who were teleported out of the square after the match, there was no longer a sea of people. Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle stood at the foot of the wall next to the teleportation point with smiles on their faces. When they saw the two of them, they immediately started clapping. Not bad. You won the first match. Han family young master's face darkened. Where's Sword Demon and Brother Yu? Sword Demon went to level up. Brother Yu went offline to the forum, Yutian Shenming replied. Next was the guild battle. Sword Demon and Brother Yu didn't participate. How much EXP did you get? Yutian Shenming came over and asked Gu Fei. Gu Fei reported the number. Yutian Shenming compared. Tisk, there's no free lunch. Compared to you two, we didn't enter the match. The rewards for the match were given out by the guild or mercenary group. As long as the members were online, they could get the rewards even if they didn't participate. Some players who weren't interested in mercenary groups were busy trying to find a big mercenary group to join just to get the rewards. Unfortunately, the strong mercenary groups had reached the level limit. There were no extra spots for freeloaders. The four of them chatted as they moved toward the guild building. Naturally, the guild competition's teleportation array was set up in the plaza outside the guild building. The number of players participating in the guild competition was only slightly higher than the mercenary competition. Similarly, the time limit for the guild competition had also been removed. The area outside the guild building was even more crowded than the mercenary guild. The four of them were instantly separated. After 3 or 2 squeezes, Gu Fei was pushed to the end of the line by the crowd. He was so angry in his heart that he really wanted to use the flaming 3,000 layers flames to directly open a path. How could the other mages around him not have the same thought? A huge amount of resentment gathered above the heads of the mages, and the sky turned gray. Originally, the guild competition was scheduled to start at 9 a.m. However, due to the special circumstances, the officials made some adjustments. The teleportation circle was always open. Players could enter and prepare to fight. The crowd kept moving, and it took an hour for Gu Fei to enter. Blue sky, white clouds, the earth. In the end, this scene was specially prepared for the match. Air, according to football, basketball, and other mature competitive systems. This kind of pre-match preparation space should be called a locker room. Gu Fei looked at the group of girls around him, and accidentally had a perverted thought. 47. July called out after seeing Gu Fei. Only 3 more people. Although it was an official event that everyone paid attention to, there were still many players who couldn't attend due to various reasons. Amethyst had 54 members, and 4 of them couldn't make it tonight. What's the situation with the opponents? Gu Fei asked. Unparalleled in the world, a level 1 guild with 50 members, July said. Since Amethyst was a level 2 guild with 54 members, July saw the 50 or so level 1 and level 2 guilds as her main opponents. This guild was also one of the ones that was introduced during the meeting, but Gu Fei's mind was elsewhere and didn't really listen. What do you guys think about how we're going to fight? July asked. As the guild leader, July had to be fair and open, and even at a time like this, she wanted to be democratic. From Gu Fei's point of view, she was more like an official spokesperson for the reborn Amethyst, not a guild leader. Although this was just a game, and the guild leader didn't have to take herself too seriously, there were times when the temperament of a leader was needed. For example, in a group battle, there had to be at least one person in charge of commanding. Even if the commanding skills were terrible, it was still better than a plate of loose sand fighting on their own. Asking for everyone's opinion first was a little too humble. This kind of guild leader would have a hard time convincing others in other guilds, but in Amethyst, this guild leader was still very harmonious. Perhaps it was because the girls were naturally harmonious. Luoluo spoke up. I think we should also split into a few small parties. Those who usually train together will be more familiar with each other's teamwork. This wasn't a brilliant idea. For example, Luoluo's leveling party was mostly made up of mages. Wouldn't they be shooting themselves in the foot if they went for a group battle? Although Gu Fei thought that Luoluo had the potential to be a guild leader, he only agreed with her personality and style. It seemed that she was just average in terms of strategy and tactics. Then everyone's eyes turned to Slim Waist Dance. Slim Waist Dance was carefully cleaning her dagger. As one of the 5 rogues, would she have any good ideas? Xiao Wu, what do you think? July asked directly. Opinion? Just go and kill them all, and that's it. Slim Waist Dance said. Ha. Gu Fei laughed in his heart. It seemed that the 5 rogues were only high level. This girl's personal strength was outstanding, but she was also completely clueless in this area. Gu Fei looked down on the bravery of a fool. Qianli, what about you? July suddenly turned to ask Gu Fei. Gu Fei was startled. After thinking for a moment, he blushed and said embarrassedly, let's just kill them. Tears. It turned out that he and Slim Waist Dance were jackals of the same lair. They were just guys who wanted to show off their bravery. However, this couldn't be blamed on Gu Fei. Intelligence wasn't the only thing that mattered in this field. Basic theoretical knowledge about the characteristics of the various professions, their playstyles, as well as the various fighting styles that could be used when a few people worked together was absolutely necessary. For example, Gu Fei's skill level was that of a top player in a solo adventure RPG. To be in command, one needed to be an expert in RTS games. They weren't in the same category at all. Because most of the girls weren't interested in RTS games, they were weak in this area. Gu Fei thought back to the girls he knew in the game. It seemed that Boundless Meng had some skill in this area. He remembered that during the battle to avenge Wuxia on the street, she was pretty good at commanding. Among the 50 reborn Amethyst, there wasn't a single person who was talented in this area. In the end, the battle plan they came up with was their strength in numbers. Everyone charge together and kill the enemies they meet. What a crude battle strategy. It was as good as not saying anything. This girl even nodded her head confidently. It was as if she had received some important instruction. If the reborn Amethyst wanted to go far, she could only rely on individual heroism. Hero number 1 Slim Waist Dance had finished cleaning her dagger. After caressing it a few times, she sheathed it at her waist and turned to Gu Fei. Let's see who kills the most. Hero number 2 Gu Fei smiled and pulled out the night streamer. Preparations complete. July submitted the request. The other side had been waiting for a long time. The scene changed and everyone was teleported from the changing room to the map. Unrivaled Heaven had a total of 50 members, but 5 of them weren't present for this match. The 2 guilds combined had a total of 95 people. This map was much bigger than Gu Fei's previous mercenary battle. At the very least, they couldn't find their opponents at a glance. Forward, July said. The girls twisted their waists and ran all over the mountains and plains. Their attitudes weren't serious at all. They laughed and chased each other. It was a very strange scene. Hurry up. Slow down. The road was filled with similar shouts. Those who ran fast and those who ran slow didn't look out for each other at all. They were absolutely free and undisciplined. The valiant Slim Waist Dance sprinted all the way and was about to disappear into the horizon. Gu Fei wanted to look out for the speed of the cleric girls like an idiot, but Luo got her way. She kept on using her healing skills. It's a match. Be serious. Don't waste your mana. Gu Fei said. Haha, we're just playing. Why are you so nervous? Luo ate a banana to replenish her mana. Damn, this was the pinnacle of participation. Look at how carefree the girls were. They didn't care about winning or losing at all. They were enjoying themselves. It was as if they were here on vacation. Gu Fei was different. He was still hoping that Amethyst could fight a few more rounds, and he could kill a few more. If this continued, wouldn't he be eliminated this round? He had to rely on himself. Gu Fei thought. He didn't want to stay behind and accompany the slow clerics. He took off and left the girls behind in the blink of an eye. After running for a while, Gu Fei saw a small mound in front of him. Slim Waist Dance was lying on the slope and peeking her head out to see something. Gu Fei hurried over and crawled next to Slim Waist Dance. He stuck his head out and asked, "What are you looking at? So slow. I just got here." Slim Waist Dance laughed at Gu Fei. "Nonsense. You're a thief." Gu Fei said. "You're a wizard." "Ha. Ha ha, you're a piece of shit." Slim Waist Dance cheered at her unintentional discovery. Gu Fei didn't pay her any more attention. He could already see the situation behind the mound. Unparalleled beneath the heavens was slowly advancing. The team maintained a fixed formation. The warriors were at the front, the sorcerers and archers were in the middle, the thieves and clerics were at the back, and the paladins were at the flanks. They were constantly buffing the buffs on their members. As a rare breed of fighter, they could just find a random spot and mix in. Look at how professional they are. Gu Fei thought. They were going to meet Amethyst's scatter formation. There was no doubt about it. When are we going? Kill them. Gu Fei said as he jumped onto the mound. He pointed at the night streamer and yelled, "Cinder Tree, you're crazy." Slim Waist Dance also jumped up and pushed Gu Fei to the ground. Whoosh whoosh. A few arrows flew over the mound. They're prepared. They're just waiting for someone to jump out and ambush us. Slim Waist Dance said. Is that so? Then hurry up and get off me. Gu Fei said to Slim Waist Dance, who was lying on top of him. Slim Waist Dance was furious. You didn't even say anything when I let you take advantage of me. Look up. Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why were people's thoughts so wretched? Slim Waist Dance raised her head. The air above the two seemed to boil. Suddenly, the air was torn apart. Several fire dragons spiraled out and formed a few circles in the blink of an eye. Fire wheel from the heavens. Butterfly knot. The gorgeous match is in full swing. The gorgeous fire wheel from the heavens is burning. Chapter 143. Slender Waist Dance screamed and scrambled away from Gu Fei's body to the side. Gu Fei was even more agile. He pushed himself up with his hands and somersaulted to the side. The wheel of fire almost brushed past Gu Fei's body as it fell down. The small mound spat out flames like a burning egg tart. Run! Slender Waist Dance called out to Gu Fei. Gu Fei nodded. He also realized that today's situation was different from the past. Usually, when he went to do a wanted quest, it was considered a sneak attack. Even if he shouted wanted quest to warn the enemy, he wouldn't encounter such a situation. Today, the enemy's formation of 40 people was only focused on fighting. Their alertness was on a completely different level compared to when they were leveling in the wild or drinking in the tavern. Anything that appeared in their line of sight, they would kill it. Would leveling people have this kind of awareness? Slender Waist Dance and Gu Fei sprinted a few meters. When they looked back, they saw that the enemy had already rushed onto the mound. Distract them and take them down one by one. Gu Fei said to Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance nodded. The two of them slowed down a bit. Otherwise, if they ran at full speed, the enemy would be in despair. Who would have the desire to chase them? Who knew that the enemy wasn't in a hurry at all? After getting onto the mound, they still maintained their formation. They stared at the two of them and steadily walked over. They didn't have any intention of breaking the formation. They won't fall for it. Gu Fei sighed. There was a difference between having a leader and not having one. Otherwise, why would the army put so much emphasis on obeying orders and discipline? The two of them didn't know whether to run or not to run. They watched as the enemy slowly approached. Cover me with spells, I'll charge. Slender Waist Dance pulled out her dagger and said to Gu Fei, Can you do it? Gu Fei said casually, but it completely ignited Slender Waist Dance's fighting spirit. Watch. Slender Waist Dance yelled and used swift movement to run out. Slow down. Gu Fei immediately chased after her. But his speed wasn't as fast as Slender Waist Dance. Now that she used swift movement, he was instantly left behind. What was there to cover for? However, the speed of the Thin Waist Dance had clearly shocked the opponents. They saw a figure dashing towards them at a speed that they could not comprehend. The archers and mages, who had their bows drawn and staffs raised in preparation for long-range attacks, were stunned. Hurry up and attack. What are you waiting for? Someone shouted. It was easy to keep a clear head when you didn't need to do anything. The archers and mages reacted and attacked together. It was only a 45-man phalanx, divided among the 7 classes. There were also only a few archers. They were far from being able to rain down arrows. Slender Waist Dance waved her hands as she ran. Not a single arrow hit her. However, the mages were much more unrestrained. When they saw that the archers couldn't even hit the target with their arrows, wouldn't the fireball spell be even more useless? So he simply used an area of effect spell. Some used Skyfall Firewheel, while others used Fire Tree Thousand Flames. Instantly, the mages burned a barrier between the team and Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance was almost killed by rushing in. After she stopped in a hurry, she saw a few white lights flashing behind the red flames. A few tracking arrows had been fired. The tracking arrows weren't as fast as a sniper, and their damage wasn't as high, but the tracking effect was fatal. Slender Waist Dance turned around and ran. Although her movement speed was already very fast, she was still slightly slower than the speed of the arrows. At this time, swift movement was also on cooldown. In the end, a few flashing white arrows chased after Slender Waist Dance's but Gu Fei had been left behind by Slender Waist Dance, and had only just arrived. Seeing Slender Waist Dance charge forward valiantly, and then run back in a sorry state, he immediately laughed out loud. Cover? Where did you go to cover? Slender Waist Dance scolded Gu Fei as she ran. She even looked back to see how far the tracking arrows were from her. If she could maintain the distance until the skill disappeared, that would be a way to dodge. Gu Fei took a step forward and swung the Night Streak sword, knocking away a tracking arrow. In terms of judgment, the arrow attack of an archer was undoubtedly the weakest. Any normal attack could take it down. However, this was only in theory. Why was the arrow attack weak? It was because its attack speed was the fastest. As Slender Waist Dance ran, she constantly paid attention to the movements of the tracking arrows behind her. In the end, when she saw that Gu Fei had knocked down only one arrow, she was immediately shocked. If it were her, she could deal with 1 or 2 arrows. However, there were a total of 6 arrows. She wasn't confident that she could deal with them all. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to run. Seeing that there was only 1 arrow left, Slender Waist Dance stopped and turned around to shoot it down. This arrow wasn't aimed at him. If he attacked from the side, it would be easier for him to shoot it down. Slender Waist Dance thought that it was a reasonable explanation. However, it didn't seem like there was any way for the two of them to deal with these 45 people. Help me block the arrows. Slender Waist Dance was thinking when she suddenly heard Gu Fei shout at her. Ah! Slender Waist Dance was surprised. Gu Fei had already raised his Dark Streak sword and pointed it at the enemy formation. Several arrows immediately whooshed towards him. Slender Waist Dance didn't have time to think. She immediately rushed in front of Gu Fei. She swung her dagger and knocked down 4 arrows, but 2 of them still hit her. However, with Slender Waist Dance's superior equipment, she could withstand the damage from the 2 arrows. Flaming 3,000 layers flames rise. After blocking this wave of attacks, it was enough for Gu Fei to complete the cast. Different spells had different chanting rules. For example, Heaven Descending Flame Wheel and Fire 3,000 layers flames. The character couldn't move while chanting, and they also couldn't be attacked. Otherwise, the chanting would be interrupted. Apart from this, the spell cast didn't have a hard time. As long as you said a few words, the cast would be complete. However, these few words had to be pronounced clearly. If you only chanted quickly, the system god wouldn't be able to tell what you were saying. That would be the same as not saying anything. From this, it could be seen that if Jay Cho came to a parallel world as a mage, he would probably be the worst one. Gu Fei's Chinese was fluent. His pronunciation was perfect and his speaking speed was moderate. Moreover, his attacks had been blocked by Slender Waist Dance, so there was no reason for him to fail the cast. However, the enemy really didn't care about a mere mage's spell. They continued to advance towards the 2 of them. The archers, mages, and other long-range classes continued to attack. Dodge. What are you waiting for? Gu Fei was about to run, but he saw that Slender Waist Dance was still standing there stupidly. Slender Waist Dance followed Gu Fei to the side and asked in a daze, "Where's your spell?" Gu Fei smiled and snapped his fingers. Sparks flew and blossomed. It was as if the 45-player team had stepped on a landmine, and were instantly engulfed in flames. Hey, they aren't dodging. Slender Waist Dance sighed. Gu Fei didn't understand for a moment. Whose side are you on? What's wrong with them not dodging? But Slender Waist Dance pointed and wanted to say that if they didn't dodge, their formation wouldn't fall into disarray, but she opened her mouth and couldn't continue. Where Gu Fei's 1,000 layers flames was blooming, there was only fire left. A huge gap had been burned in unparalleled under Heaven's 45-player formation. The remaining people were shocked and confused. Their eyes were filled with panic. The priests at the back of the formation were even more at a loss. They had raised their hands to heal their companions who had been attacked by spells, but their companions had disappeared. Go! Gu Fei waved his hand at Slender Waist Dance and charged forward. He had only used 1,000 layers flames because he had no other choice. Gu Fei still preferred to fight at close range. Hey you! Slender Waist Dance clearly didn't have it easy either. A mage yelled and charged into the enemy formation. Unfortunately, She only had time to shout 2 words before Gu Fei was already gone. Slender Waist Dance could only chase after him. Unparalleled Under Heaven still hadn't come back to his senses. 2 full agility speed maniacs were already charging over from the side. Dual Flame Flash. Dutch. Gu Fei immediately used his killer move. Although half of the 1,000 layers flames had already been killed, it was still 2v20. The pressure was still quite high, and it wasn't time to casually play. This dual flame flash hit 3 people. 2 died on the spot, and the other priest was only burned by spells. Without the Dark Stream Sword's physical attack, he survived. At this time, Slender Waist Dance had also arrived. Her attacks weren't much weaker than Gu Fei's. Her dagger stabbed randomly, and she quickly killed 2 people. At this time, Gu Fei's second dual flame flash had already been used, and he killed 2 people in one go. Only then did the other side come back to their senses. The concept of maintaining formation had already disappeared. The crowd suddenly surrounded the 2 of them. Gu Fei used dual flame flash to kill another person, and then took 2 steps back. With his back against Slender Waist Dance, he asked, "Hey, can you do it?" "If you can do it, why can't I?" Slender Waist Dance asked. "Alright, you hold them off for a bit. I'll go eat a banana first." Gu Fei used dual flame flash to split the 2 people apart, and then dashed out of the crowd. Unlike Slender Waist Dance, who directly stabbed with her dagger, Gu Fei's high damage required mana. As a mage, describing Gu Fei's mana as poor was already giving face. At this time, his mana was almost empty. "Fuck you, bastard." Slender Waist Dance wanted to cry. She didn't know that Gu Fei had asked this question because he wanted to leave her behind and run away. Slender Waist Dance felt a bit weak facing more than 10 people by herself. She stretched out her neck and shouted, "When are you coming back?" Gu Fei ran while peeling the banana, replying, "Immediately. Hold on." In the end, Unparalleled Under Heaven's people also realized that Gu Fei was out of mana. How could they let go of this opportunity? Immediately, a few people hurriedly chased after Gu Fei. The pressure on Slender Waist Dance lessened. Gu Fei looked back and saw that the other side had split into 2 groups. Slender Waist Dance wasn't in a tight spot anymore, so he ate the banana in 2 or 3 bites. As for whether or not his mana had recovered, he didn't care. He put the Dark Knight Lightsword back into his pocket and took out Fire Baptism. It was just a few opponents, so he didn't need to use any powerful skills. Now he finally didn't need to be so careful and nervous. Chapter 144. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gu Fei counted the people chasing him. There were 6 players in total. There were still 11 people left to deal with the Slender Waist Dancer. This made Gu Fei very unhappy. Could it be that in these guys' eyes he was far inferior to that girl? He really couldn't blame them. Who would pay any attention to a mage who had no magic power? The 6 people chasing him were fearless. They charged forward majestically. When they were still 5 meters away from Gu Fei, there was a sudden thud, and one of them fell to the ground. The remaining 5 were shocked. When did this attack start? They didn't even notice it at all. Everyone's eyes were on Gu Fei. This kid didn't move at all. The 5 couldn't help but stop in their tracks. They looked down and saw that the guy who had fallen was on his back. He was also quite shocked. He kept shouting, "Am I dead? Am I dead?" The 5 of them were speechless. They could already see that there was a banana peel hanging from the bottom of the guy's feet. How could you be so careless? Gu Fei sighed. The 5 of them couldn't care less about the guy on the ground. They shouted and charged forward. They had already seen how strong Gu Fei was as a mage. Now that he had no mana, this was a rare opportunity. Hurry! The 5 of them urged each other. In the blink of an eye, a warrior had already reached 2 meters in front of Gu Fei. He shouted and charged at him. Gu Fei dodged to the side and slashed out with Baptism of Fire, accurately hanging on his opponent's neck. The warrior's charge didn't hit anything. He felt a chill on the back of his neck. When he turned around, he saw Gu Fei's blade slash across his neck. He was scared out of his wits. The charge skill hadn't ended yet. The warrior continued to run forward for the remaining 2 meters. He thought to himself, "It's over. When I stop, My head will fall off. When he steadied himself, his head was still intact. The warrior looked at his health. It didn't drop much. He immediately realized, how much damage can a mere mage do? With this thought in mind, he immediately roused himself, brandishing the giant sword in his hand and charging back. The other four also arrived at this time, brandishing their weapons as they attacked Gu Fei. Behind them, the one who had been knocked over by the banana peel was also getting up from the ground. However, there were only a few of them. Gu Fei did not care about them at all. He brandished his saber and started fighting with them. Chopping, stabbing, lifting, twisting, slicing. Every single move never missed its mark. The more they fought, the more apprehensive they became. In their eyes, Gu Fei's movement technique was like a ghost. Be it normal attacks or skill attacks, none of them could hit him. However, no one was able to dodge or block his counterattack. Although the damage dealt was very low, if this continued, he would die sooner or later. Moreover, the saber had a spell attached to it. Sometimes it would suddenly burst into flames, and the burn would be quite painful. They regretted not calling for a priest to follow them. He had thought that he would be able to easily take down a mage without mana, but now... A blood-curdling scream rang out. Someone had already collapsed in the flames. The remaining 5 were even more panicked. At this time, they were all wounded. Without a priest to heal them. Who knew when that guy's fire magic would burst out and burn them to death? Priest, hurry and get a priest. The 5 suddenly turned and ran. At this time, they couldn't care about stopping Gu Fei from recovering mana. Preserving the spark of the revolution was the most important thing. But when they turned around, they were immediately stunned. The people who hadn't chased over were in a worse situation than them. Slender Waist Dance's rapid movement style was even more ghostly than Gu Fei's. His figure weaved through the crowd like a harvester, harvesting lives. They could at least use a few skills on Gu Fei. The people on the other side couldn't keep up with Slender Waist Dance's speed at all, and the skills they used hurt their own people. Of the 11 people, Slender Waist Dance had already taken care of 5. The 5 had completely lost their direction. In front of them was Slender Waist Dance, and behind them was Gu Fei. They finally realized that these 2 people were peerless experts. In front of these 2 people, they had no chance of winning at all. At this time, it was 2 against 11. Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance actually had an overwhelming advantage. The 11 people had no fighting spirit at all. They only resisted listlessly. The 2 also sped up the pace of their looting. In no time, they killed another 10 people. The last warrior held his sword in front of him. He trembled and couldn't stop retreating. Being killed wasn't scary. There was no punishment for dying in a match. What was scary was the opponent's overwhelming strength. The 2 of them had killed a team of 45 people. Fear was brought about by the disparity in strength. "Who are you?" the warrior asked, confused. Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance looked at each other. "Where should we start? I won't trouble you. I'll do it myself." The warrior held his sword horizontally. He actually wanted to kill himself. This was his last bit of backbone. "No!" Slender Waist Dance screamed. Gu Fei and the warrior were stunned. Then Slender Waist Dance floated behind the warrior and killed him with a backstab. "You're worth points," Slender Waist Dance mumbled as she watched the warrior's figure disappear in a flash of white light. The battle was over. The system quickly calculated the results of this battle. Since no one from Amethyst died, and all members of Unparalleled World were killed, the final evaluation was perfect. In terms of contribution, Gu Fei killed 32 people and gained 32 points. Slender Waist Dance killed 13 people and gained 13 points. The other girls all gained 0 points. Gu Fei had the highest points and was chosen as the match's MVP. He was awarded an additional 10 points. "What's the use of points?" Gu Fei asked Slender Waist Dance. Perhaps it was because there were too few people in the mercenary battle that the calculation was fast and simple, but Gu Fei didn't notice the system notification. Slender Waist Dance said, "I don't know yet, but since there's this calculation, I believe it's related to the rewards." As the 2 of them spoke, a white light flashed. The system calculation was over. and the winner was sent back to the square outside the guild building. The other 48 girls were now beside the two of them, their faces full of confusion. You two took out all 45 people? Everyone stared at Gu Fei and Slender Waist dance in the crowd. Although they didn't witness the battle, the final statistics announced by the system showed that all 45 people were killed by Gu Fei and Slender Waist dance. Damn! Slender Waist dance screamed. He took all the points. Slender Waist dance glared at Gu Fei with a face full of resentment. Gu Fei shrugged. About 20 of his points came from the Cinder Tree Thousand Layers flame. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he didn't want to use an area of effects skill. He didn't think that getting 20 points in one go was very satisfying. He could have fought 20 opponents one by one, but they disappeared just like that. Gu Fei felt sad when he thought about it. Amidst the laughter, someone suggested going to celebrate. Taverns were the only places of entertainment in the game, but there were no taverns that could accept 50 customers at a time, so their business would not be so bad. Amethyst's party went to a few taverns, but they couldn't find a place that could accommodate 50 people. On the other hand, they were surrounded by a lot of onlookers along the way. Of course, it was eye-catching for so many girls to parade through the streets. As for the only man among the group of girls, he was definitely an even more eye-catching existence. When Gu Fei realized this, he lowered his head and bent his waist as he walked, trying his best to blend into the crowd. When he passed by a certain safe zone, he suddenly shouted, "UFO!" This kind of trick wouldn't be able to fool anyone, but Gu Fei, who had been silent all this time, suddenly roared, startling the girls. Gu Fei didn't greet anyone, he ran into the safe zone and went offline. Just like that, the first day of the tournament passed. All in all, there weren't any dark horses. Guilds and mercenary groups such as Reigning the Four Seas and Black Hand easily passed the first round. Guilds and mercenary groups that were considered the favorites to win the championship easily passed the first round. As for the mid-tier guilds and mercenary groups, no one paid attention to them. Even if something happened to them, no one would know. As for the stories that happened between the popular guilds like Amethyst and Peerless, they were easily forgotten. Peerless words carried little weight, and no one paid attention to their guild's name. Moreover, 45 of them were wiped out by 2 of their opponents. Only an idiot would brag about it. As for Amethyst's side, it was Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance who did it. If they didn't brag about it, how could the others be so ignorant as to advertise it? On the second day, the officials announced the matchups for the second round early in the morning. This was so that the guilds and mercenary groups could come up with strategies to deal with their opponents. Unfortunately, the event where the first guild, Reigning the Four Seas, was drawn to the second guild, Singing to Wine did not happen. Everyone hoped that it would happen sooner. No matter who won or lost, they would be able to get rid of a strong enemy. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to their wishes. In the end, the big guilds were drawn against small guilds that were too weak to even stand up to the wind. Many players began to criticize the officials for manipulating the game and purposely avoiding a strong confrontation. This kind of argument was a little too extreme. There were only a few top-tier guilds, and there were a lot of small and medium-sized guilds. The probability of bumping into a big guild was very low. If the smaller guilds were thick-skinned enough, they would have a reason to suspect that the game developers were plotting against them. They had chosen a strong opponent to eliminate them early, so that their existence wouldn't cause trouble for the game company. A true expert would not add unnecessary trouble to themselves. They only knew how to face the difficulties head-on. Mean Mercenary Group. Level 4. 73 members. Ranked 6th in Cloud City. Their leader is Unchung Mutsu. Ranked 7th on the Warrior Experience leaderboard. We won. Brother Yu announced Child Elite Group's opponent for the second round to the other 5. Chapter 145. 73. Everyone was repeating this number. Moreover, these 73 people's levels aren't low. 27 of them are level 40, 39 of them are level 39, and 7 of them are level 38. Gongzi and I basically don't have the ability to fight back, so each of you will have to face 18 opponents. Brother Yu said. Everyone was speechless. Even Gu Fei didn't dare to say that he could fight 18 people alone. He had already experienced the guild war yesterday. This kind of clear goal battle had more problems to solve than normal PKs. Usually, Gu Fei would jump in front of people and shout, "Wanted quest." But now, if he revealed even half of his head, the arrows of the archers and the spells of the mages would not be stingy. It was obvious that Child Elite Group had no chance of winning in a direct confrontation. To win this confrontation, we must formulate an effective strategy. Brother Yu looked at Han Family Young Master and said. Han Family Young Master nodded. That's why we can only rely on me. Everyone was speechless again. Okay, let's go. The young master of the Han family stood up, displaying his leader's demeanor. A trifling Yunmu mercenary group won't be able to stop my advance. It's Mu Yin. Brother Yu reminded. He'll be defeated by me anyway. His name isn't worth remembering. Han family young master said in disdain, and walked out of the private room. Gongzi is really amazing. Yutian Shenming sighed. No matter how strong the opponent is, I will always be full of confidence in myself. But he can just make my confidence disappear magically. No sense of security. Gu Fei nodded in agreement. Brother Yu and Unscathed in Battle were silent. As Han family young master's closest comrade, Sword Demon only smiled faintly. He stood up and was the second to walk out of the private room. The other four stood up and left the private room one after another. The number of people participating in the second round of the competition was much smaller than the first round, and the teleportation array was opened 3 hours earlier. The match would start at 7 o'clock sharp, unlike yesterday, when both sides announced that they were ready. Players who did not enter the teleportation circle by 7 o'clock would be considered as not participating in the competition. Because of this rule, many players had already entered the teleportation circle and were in the changing room for pre-battle preparations and tactical arrangements. When the 6 members of the Child Elite Group arrived at the Mercenary Square, there weren't many people outside the teleportation array. The 6 of them were quickly teleported into the changing room. We still have half an hour. The Han family young master looked at the time and sat on the ground. He put his hand into his pocket and took out a bottle of wine. Who wants it? Han family young master asked the 5 of them. Do it yourself, said the 5. You're welcome. I have more. Han family young master took out another bottle and showed it to the 5 of them. The 5 of them shook their heads again. Thus, the young master of the Han clan no longer paid any attention to him. He filled up a bottle, unscrewed another, and started drinking on his own. Brother Yu kept an eye on the number of members on the other side. 55. Another one. 56 people. 57. In the end, the number of people in the Muyun mercenary group reached 68. After 5 minutes, there were only 3 minutes left before the match started at 7 o'clock. 68 people. It seems like these are the people from Muyun mercenary group. Brother Yu announced the final result. That's quite a lot. The Han family young master stood up and poured the remaining half of the wine on the ground. Then he threw the empty bottle away. Get ready to go. The windows of the mercenary channel are open. With a flash of white light, the 6 of them were teleported into the map. The Han family young master looked around and said immediately, Sword Demon, Qianli, Brother Yu, and Wu Shang, go to the 4 corners of the map and tell me the coordinates. Brother Yu and Wu Shang will go closer. Qianli and Sword Demon will go farther. The 4 of them turned around and left. No one asked any questions. It was a big taboo to question the commander on the battlefield. Unless you thought you were invincible and had the ability to turn the situation around. Even if it was just a game, one person's recklessness could affect the overall situation. Yutian, you may become an unstable factor in this battle, the Han family young master said to Yutian Shenming. Why? Yutian Shenming was surprised. If I tell you the coordinates, can you find them? The Han family young master asked. Yutian Shenming's face turned red. His poor sense of direction was as famous as his reputation as the #1 mage. Follow me first. The Han family young master led the way and led Yutian Shenming into the forest on a small hill. After a while, the Sword Demon and the others came back with their report. Coordinates 500,500, Gu Fei said. Coordinates 0, 500, Sword Demon said. Coordinates 0, 0. This was unscathed in battle. Coordinates 500, 0, Brother Yu said. Oh, it's about the same size as the map I estimated, the Han family young master said. We haven't been discovered, right? Wait a moment, I'll be there soon. While they were talking, the Han family young master and Yutian Shinming had already arrived at the top of the hill. The Han family young master raised his head and murmured, "It's not as high as the hill over there, but it should be about the same height when we reach the top of the tree." The Han family young master walked around and finally stopped under a tree. He raised his head and looked around, then patted the tree trunk and said to Yutian Shinming, "Come, give me a hand." Ha! Yutian Shinming didn't understand what he was going to do. The Han family young master pointed at the top of his head. "Go up." "Climb the tree?" Yutian Shinming was stunned as he helped the Han family young master. This charming young master who loved wine as much as his life did things quickly. Borrowing the support of the imperial divine cry, he climbed up the branch, and in no time, he was already climbing higher and higher. "What are you doing?" Yutian Shinming shouted from under the tree. "Don't shout loudly. If you are far away, use the message to communicate." The Han family young master was still able to send messages while climbing the tree. "What are the two of you doing?" the other four asked in the mercenary channel. "Oh, the field of vision is not bad." The Han family young master sighed in the mercenary channel. "What are they doing?" The other four didn't understand. "Wuxiang, the opponent is heading towards you. They are moving towards the 500 to 0 direction. Qianli, you are now behind the enemy. Can you see them?" "No." Gu Fei replied. "Move towards the 428,427 direction. There is a mound over there. Do you see it?" The Han family young master said. "There is indeed a mound. How do you know the coordinates?" Gu Fei asked as he walked towards the mound. "This is talent." The Han family young master smiled. "Sword Demon, the 29,476 direction is the low ground. Retreat to that side and move towards the low ground. Update your coordinates at any time." "Okay." The Sword Demon also started to move. "Yimu's people are approaching our birthplace. Wuxiang, the coordinates." The Han family young master said after a while. 592. The other one is Mu Yun. Unscathed in battle said. "Do you see the wooden house at 35 to 64? The Han family young master asked. "I see it. Go there immediately." "I'm not asking you to go there. The enemy is already approaching that direction. Is there a place to hide?" "Hide first. I can't see you clearly." "Damn, there are a few trees blocking my view." The Han family young master cursed. There is a huge rock. Hide. Tell me the coordinates." 54 to 16. Unscathed in battle hid behind the rock and replied. The Han family young master adjusted his position on the tree, and finally found a spot where he could see the huge rock. "Oh. Looks like you can't hide anymore. Prepare your whirlwind slash. Kill as many as you can." The Muyin mercenary group had already arrived at the birthplace of the elite group. When they didn't find any traces of the 6 people, they started to divide the members into groups and prepared to do a carpet search. 8 people went in your direction. "Wuxiang, looks like you're going to be the first to die for the group. Our comrades will remember you," the Han family young master said. "Damn, you guys can't lose." Unscathed in battle clenched the great sword in his hand. "Of course. Get ready," the Han family young master said. Unscathed in battle's great sword was pointed at the ground. He had already prepared his whirlwind slash. He was waiting for the enemy to show up and catch them off guard. "Damn, we've already been discovered. Hurry and charge out." The Han family young master hurriedly yelled. Unscathed in battle had already discovered the flames above his head. The enemy had clearly discovered that there were people behind the rock. They didn't walk over and directly ordered the mages to carpet bomb the area. Unscathed in battle roared and rushed out. Although he dodged the heaven-falling fire will above his head, he was completely disheartened when he saw what was in front of him. The opponents were already on guard against an ambush behind the rock, so they all kept their distance. As soon as Unscathed in Battle rushed out, he was directly exposed to the passionate gazes of the 68 people. Arrows, spells, long-range attacks were all coming at him. No matter how high the defense and health of a warrior was, they couldn't withstand such a barrage of attacks. Wuxiang did not have Gu Fei's or Slender Waist Dance's super reaction speed and speed. Although he managed to disperse 2 fireballs with his greatsword, he was unable to disperse all of them, much less the heaven-descending fire wheel that came crashing down from above. Amidst the flames and arrows, Unscathed in Battle began to transform into a white light. In the list of participating members, Unscathed in Battle's name instantly dimmed. The opponent had already won 1 point. Brother Yu, your spot is a little conspicuous. Move towards 468,101 and go behind that mound. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, the Han family's young master began to speed up the rhythm of his commands. Qianli, are you in position? Stay where you are. The members of the Muyin mercenary group had already been divided into groups of 8, and they headed towards 8 different directions on the map. The remaining 4 people headed towards the highest point on the map. The opponent is about to occupy the high ground. Sword Demon, move towards 128,412. There's a forest there. Move quickly. Brother Yu, 2 teams are moving in your direction. They're moving towards the low ground at 399,234. You have to be fast as well. There's a team at 178,134 heading in that direction. You have to get to the low ground before them and escape from there. Qianli, there's a team of 8 people moving towards you. Very good. I'll deal with them, Gu Fei said. No, there's another team moving towards 12 o'clock nearby. If you fight with them, your opponents will be 16 people. The Han family young master said. Move towards 426,375 from the back of the mound. As for your speed, I don't need to worry about that, right? Of course, Gu Fei actually wanted to fight with 16 people. However, this was a team activity, and he was a member of the team first and foremost. Yutian Shunming, who had been treated as heir, finally received his first instruction from the Han family young master. What? Yutian Shunming was already bored to death. It seemed that this battle really had nothing to do with him. Moving according to the coordinates was easy for ordinary people, but it was the most difficult thing in the world for people with no sense of direction. The team moving towards 3 o'clock has already entered the forest, the Han family young master said. Yutian Shunming raised his head and looked. The Han family young master was hidden in the dense foliage, so he couldn't see him at all. The tree was indeed an excellent place to hide, but it was a pity that the trees here were thick and tall. Without someone to raise the height of the tree, there was no way for him to grab hold of the branches at the top. What should I do? Yutian Shunming asked. A place like the forest was actually quite suitable for archers, who mainly focused on sneak attacks. However, Yutian Shunming was born with no sense of direction, which limited his development in this area. How could he use the terrain to deal with the enemy without an excellent sense of direction? If Yutian Shunming were to do this, not only would he not be able to figure out the enemy's position, it was very likely that he would be confused about his own position after 2 rounds. Stand up and turn right. Alright, just keep running in this direction, the Han clan's young master said. Oh, Yutian Shunming finally obeyed the instructions of the Han family young master, slung his bow, and ran in the specified direction. On the map, everyone was moving around in a hurry. Butterfly knot. There are more coordinates in this chapter. Those who are able to outline the accurate situation in their minds without confusion, congratulations, you have the same talent as the Han family young master. Chapter 146. The Han family young master stood firmly on the top of the tree and watched the people on the map running busily like ants. He felt quite happy in his heart. The 8 teams of the Muyin mercenary group walked toward the 4 vertices and the midpoint of the square map. The team in the 0-0 position was the first to arrive. After that, they stayed in the same place and didn't move. Update the coordinates. Update the coordinates. The Han family young master called out to the others in the mercenary channel. Although they could see far from the top, there were still some places that the Han family young master couldn't see. For example, behind the hillside, in the small forest, and some potholes. At this time, he arranged for them to hide in such a place, so he couldn't pinpoint their exact location. After the four of them reported their coordinates, the Han family young master's mouth twitched. Yutian, even I have to admire you. Are you running in a straight line? Of course, Yutian Shenming said. Keep running. I bet you can't get out of this forest, the Han family young master said. Yutian, you can't go that far, right? How did you do the wanted mission? Aren't you just looking for the coordinates? Gu Fei asked. Yutian's coordinate notebook can't be used now, right? Brother, you reminded him. Oh, Gu Fei reacted. Yutian Shenming had a notebook that recorded a lot of Cloud City coordinates. When he needed to go to a coordinate, he had to look it up in his notebook first. Even if he couldn't find it directly, he would at least find something close to it. At this time, there would be a landmark next to it, such as Little Ray's Bar. Thus, Imperial Sky Divine Ming pointed to these familiar locations, and only then was he able to successfully reach these coordinates. Keep the channel clean. Don't chat idly. The Han family young master scolded the two of them, and then issued a series of instructions. Sword Demon, listen to my command later. Rush out of the forest and run in the 0400 direction. Qianli, after the Sword Demon starts running, rush out from the back of the hill, and move towards the forest in the 366,365 direction. Run as fast as you can. Brother, your lowland should be connected to this 426,375 hill, right? Start moving in this direction now. On the other side, in the Muyun Mercenary Group's channel, Captain Unchung Mutsu was personally leading a team of people to search while giving instructions. Did you find anything on the high ground? No. What about the teams? Arrived at 7 o'clock. Nothing. Arrived at 6 o'clock. Nothing. There were 8 squads in the Muyun Mercenary Group. Apart from the squad that was the furthest away from the 1 o'clock direction, the other 7 squads were already in place. Get ready, everyone. Once we're in position at 1 o'clock, we'll immediately start searching clockwise. Unchung Mutsu sent a message. Unexpectedly, as soon as he gave the order, a report came from the higher ground. Target detected. Target detected. Location. He ran out of the forest in the 11 o'clock direction. He's currently moving in the 10 o'clock direction, the scout from the higher ground reported. This was the best an ordinary person could do. They could divide the map like a clock, and then roughly describe the direction. Like Han family young master, who could determine the coordinates with his naked eyes, just like he said, it was a talent. Keep an eye on him and report his movements at all times. The nearest 2nd and 3rd squads will go and intercept him. Unchung Mutsu ordered. As soon as the Sword Demon appeared, the 4 scouts from the higher ground didn't dare to look away from him. There were some blind spots in the higher ground. If they didn't keep an eye on him, they might not be able to figure out where he went at any time. In the end, the 4 of them didn't notice that at the other end of the map, a figure ran out from behind the hill and disappeared into a small forest in the blink of an eye. Sword Demon, we're almost there. Stop. Although humans had become ants in the eyes of the Han family young master, he could basically distinguish between friend and foe. Those who were alone were on his side, and those who were in groups were enemies. He stopped. The scout from the higher ground reported. Location. The squad that was preparing to intercept the Sword Demon asked. The scout couldn't describe it for a moment. If the Sword Demon was moving, he could describe it as moving in the X o'clock direction. However, standing still instead made it difficult for him. Location, the squad member asked again. You're moving slightly to the left now. If you keep going, you'll probably hit him. The other team, you can move slightly to the right. A little more to the left. You're too right. The team on the left, a little more to the left. The team on the left is too right. A little more to the left, too left, a little more to the right. A little more to the right. A little more to the right. Too much, a little more to the left. Sigh, the other team is too left again, go right. Just like that, the two groups of people collapsed. Private chat. The two teams roared in unison. Oh, the scout finally reacted. Each person was in charge of a team, and began to lead the way. Since the sword demon had not moved at this time, everyone's eyes were not so fixated on him. As a result, when he turned around, he saw a silhouette rushing toward the mountain where the four of them were. Ah, found another one, the scout shouted. Where? Unchung Mutsu hurriedly asked. He's running towards us. What are you panicking for? There are four of you too. Weren't you already prepared? Unchung Mutsu criticized his men for not being calm. But he's so fast. The four of them exclaimed as they scrambled to prepare for battle. Fast? How fast can he be? Can he be faster than your arrows? He'll run out of speed in a while. How fast can he be? Unchung Mutsu said. He purposely arranged for 4 archers to be on the high ground, so that they could attack from afar if they discovered a target. The 4 archers had already knocked their arrows and were ready to snipe. They were just waiting for Gu Fei to enter their shooting range. As Gu Fei approached, Gu Fei's attire became clearer and clearer. The 4 of them opened their mouths wide. This isn't a thief who runs fast. Then what is it? It looks like a mage. The hem of Gu Fei's dark spirit robe fluttered under the high-speed movement, had already betrayed him. There were only 2 professions that wore robes, a mage and a priest. And a priest was a non-combat profession. He would not rush over in such an imposing manner. What are you afraid of? You 4 archers. Unchung Mutsu scolded his men for being useless. He had not seen it with his own eyes. He could not imagine how fast a mage could move. The 4 scouts were full of questions at this moment. They did not even bother to look at the news in the mercenary channel. Seeing that Gu Fei had entered their shooting range, one of them gave an order. The 4 released the bowstrings in their hands at the same time. For arrows flew out like meteors chasing after the moon. Gu Fei was full of confidence. If he was still at level 30, he definitely would not have been able to dodge the archers' attacks. At that time, it wasn't that he could not see the trajectory of the arrows clearly. It was that his body could not reach the required movement speed. But now he was level 39. In comparison, the increase in speed of his skills was not as obvious as the increase in speed of Gu Fei's level 9 agility, and the pair of wind-chasing boots. Gu Fei no longer cared about this kind of normal character's sniping. The 4 scouts at the top of the mountain thought that Gu Fei would definitely be taken care of, but they didn't expect to see the black silhouette swish, 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 swish. The 4 arrows were already behind him, and the distance between him and them was reduced by half. Ah, how is this possible? The 4 of them exclaimed together. Tracking arrows, quick, tracking arrows. One of them called out to his 3 companions as he hurriedly knocked an arrow. The most powerful sniping skill had just been used and was on cooldown. It could not be used again. The drawback of an archer needing to be skilled in shooting was once again revealed. It was said that experts who used hidden weapons had to have steady hands. How could archers not? At this moment, one of the 4 scouts had a weak mental fortitude. Seeing Gu Fei rapidly approaching, he couldn't knock his arrow properly. But luckily, the other 3 performed normally. The sound of knocking arrows rang out. Pung pung pung. 3 arrows flashing with white light flew out. Gu Fei did not even care about the speed of a sniper. How could he care about a tracking arrow? Even though the tracking ability could not be dodged, why would he need to dodge? The night streak in his hand stabbed out. The tip of the sword shook 3 times, knocking away the 3 arrows. The 4 scouts opened their mouths so wide that their jaws almost dropped to the ground. In this moment of distraction, Gu Fei had finally rushed in front of them. Dual flame flash dodge. Gu Fei raised his sword and brought it down. Archers were also a class with low HP. They could not withstand Gu Fei's ultimate skill at all. With a flash, 2 of them had already been killed. The other 2 didn't know what to do. Archers at close range were always at a loss. Gu Fei calmly stabbed a few times. The 2 archers could not dodge or fight. They wanted to turn and run, but they were not as fast as Gu Fei. In the end they died sullenly. Even in death, the 4 scouts could not figure out. Was he a mage? They seemed to have heard him use the mage skill Dual Flame Flash. But could Dual Flame Flash kill people instantly? Was it an illusion? After their deaths, the 4 who were sent out of the field stared at each other. The members of the 2 squads that had surrounded Sword Demon were still sending them messages. Location. Location. Fuck you. Dead. The 4 were not in a good mood. When the Unchung Mutsu received the news of their deaths, he was shocked. How long had it been since the 4 had reported that they had found the target until they were killed? The Unchung Mutsu finally realized that the speed that shocked the 4 scouts was not a big deal. Squad 4, Squad 5, head toward the high ground. Did Team 2 and Team 3 find the target? Not yet. The Han family young master, who was at the top of a tree in the distance, clearly saw Gu Fei rush to the top of the mountain and set off a white light. Then he received the message that Gu Fei had taken care of. Very good. Qianli, return the way you came. Sword Demon, move swiftly to 223,398. Brother Yu, update your coordinates. Yutian, are you out of the forest? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.